Here we are, live, I think. Yes, we are. Couple of D-bags for being late.
7 minutes late.
Yeah, what the fuck? They judge us for that. I mean, sometimes Immutable's like 30 minutes late, And sometimes Leo never shows up. I'm waiting for this damn thing to start up so that there we go. Okay, got it. Anyway, so I was, I watched your entire section last night on that channel. I can't remember that guy's name.
The Natural Selection channel or the
no,
okay.
No, the douchebag with the smoke. I
forgot his name. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the smoky guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He's always got smoke going on around him. I think his biscuits are burning. I don't know if you saw his biscuit video, but he did a video making biscuits, and my joke has been that his biscuits are still burning in the background. Anyway, I saw your entire diet, and one thing you said is that you go after new atheists, and I think I'd heard that from you before. What the fuck is a new atheist?
So first of all, it's not like there's some like essential property of a new atheist, but what I meant in that case is something like this. Like an atheist who kind of accepts some sort of verification principle that looks up to atheists like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris as not looks up to them as scientists, but looks up to them as philosophers and responders to theism. When I think these people, with the exception of Daniel Dennett, who I find mildly respectable with respect to philosophy of religion, Daniel Dennett's main study, he studies mind and other things, right? But yeah, the other three are just philosophically bankrupt, right? But and so some atheists look up to them for philosophy, and so that's one indicator. They're not all bullies, but a lot of them use terminology like "sky daddy," "you're this," "you're that." They don't all have the tendency to ridicule, but some of them do. So I mean that's a kind of a rough picture of what I take to be a new atheist. They're usually younger, and they're somewhat on the edgier side, less interested in having discussions, more interested in kind of winning a debate, which is nice, right? I mean, like I like winning debates, but they don't really. It seems like the level of open-mindedness is a little bit less than other sorts of atheists, right?
Sam Harris, you find Sam Harris that way?
No, I do not. Right? I actually like all of the maybe Richard Dawkins is a little shady, but I actually really like Christopher Hitchens, and I really like Sam Harris, but not for anything to do with atheism or theism. Right?
Okay.
I think Hitchens is one of the very fun to listen to, very perky, very funny, very smart. And same with Sam Harris. These are great. I think these are people that I would really enjoy talking to. I just think they're philosophically bankrupt. And so the problem is that if you're an atheist looking up to them in terms of the whole dialectic between theism and atheism, I think that's a flag for me, right? That you're a quote unquote new atheist, right?
Okay. So I guess I look up to Sam Harris. I agree with Sam Harris on a tremendous amount of stuff. And Daniel Dennett, I don't know if you knew this or not, but he actually is Jesus Christ. I mean, look at it. He's God, actually. And his human form is Jesus Christ. But I really worship Dan Dennett. I like the way the man thinks. I like the way he analyzes things. Sam Harris, I agree with because he's the one atheist that will cross over into meditation and spirituality. And he does so fairly easily, and I appreciate that. Now, Dawkins, Hitchens is just a wonderful personality, and Dawkins, I shouldn't even talk about Dawkins because as a biologist, as a philosopher, no.
Oh, really? Not even as a biologist?
Not even as a biologist.
I didn't even know that. Not because I didn't respect him as a philosopher, but I didn't know. I granted him being good at biology.
his books are old, so
Oh, okay.
he had some ideas back in the day, and what I've read, I guess I would have to have a conversation with him in order to make an assessment. Other than what I've just gotten from his books, I don't really care. Like all these Christian books that come out against evolution, I page through them. I highlight a few spots. I try to get the gist of them, but I don't have fucking time.
Yeah.
I don't have time for fluff. So. Fluff sucks. So okay, so a new atheist, but a new atheist doesn't really have any. I thought maybe you were because like Dillahunty, his thing is show me the evidence. I am neutral. I'm not going to make any claim at all, and I don't have to make a claim. You do. I've heard new atheists described that way, to where they don't have to justify anything. It is the theist that's got to bring the claim. And
that seems to be another kind of characteristic that I've noticed. Yeah, that they tend to they think that the burden is only on the theist, but not all of them. But
yeah, I kind of sympathize with that, because if you're just an average person and you've never heard of Christianity and you have no reason to believe in Christianity, you've never been a Christian, then why in the hell would you believe in it? I mean, somebody has to bring you something. And I've never seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, do they have a reason to reject it?
Well, why would you reject something? I mean, there are so many different things that people could bring you. Why are you obligated to reject all of them, to sit and reject each one? Why not just blanket reject anything that you don't have a reason to believe in?
Right? Because you don't have, I mean, presumably, is atheism, is there a reason to believe in atheism or to hold to atheism? And if you say that the reason is that there's no reason to not hold it, or then you're going to have problem. Then they should be committed to theism as well, right? Because there's a reason. Like it just ends up with some kind of weird regress, right? So
they don't commit to anything other than what's in front of them,
right? And I think that that's actually a very standard mentality of a new atheist, right? That the world is ultimately something that in principle you could observe or measure, in some kind of way. And I think that is too myopic is redundant. It's myopic, right? For philosophically myopic.
Okay, that's probably where I start out as somebody who doesn't have I start out right where I am right now, in front of these two monitors. I got an iPad, I got a Rode microphone, I got a cup of coffee. Okay, and if I'm going to start thinking about what the world is, then I keep coming up with naturalism all the way out of this room, into the bathroom, into the bedroom. I can't find anything but things that I, in principle, can explain with science.
It seems like to you naturalism is intuitive, and I don't. So I respect this. I mean, no. I mean, it seems like what I'm hearing from you is that my intuition screams that the world is it's just nature, right? It's what I see, it's what I can observe, it's what I can measure. Now, that's not an inference that you're making, right? I think that's something to do with you're claiming either that it's a kind of perception or intuition. I think because if you were inferring naturalism from what you're observing, there would be some logical issue, right? But it's perfectly fine, I think, to say, look, I have this intuition that it's naturalism. I believe in naturalism, but then there's an extra step of what is there? Is that something that we can conclude via argumentation? Many people try for it, right? But I think that but let me be charitable at the same time, right? There are a lot of things I don't believe that have never even been presented to me, right? So if there was this weird religion that I had never been exposed to, and someone were to bring it on the table, right? And I would ask, well, okay, what are your reasons for accepting this, right?
Right.
To me, the what's going on there is that I would be, if I'm asking the question, why do you believe this, right? Typically, I'm withholding belief at the beginning, right? I'm like, I'm being responsible with respect to my epistemology, I need I want to know why they believe. Presumably they have a reason. I don't have a reason, so I ought to remain an agnostic. Or what they present to me already presents a logical contradiction, or is some kind of just so story of the world, right? So let's say they believe in shoe stealing fairies, and they believe in the shoe stealing fairy as an explanation for every time I miss my shoes, missing my shoes, I can't find them. It's always the shoe stealing fairy. And when you find them, they just placed it there right before you turned the corner, right? There are some issues, epistemic issues for me. So I can hold beliefs justifiably. So I can say that I know that this thing is not, it's not reasonable to believe in this thing, right? That's to say I can provide an argument to them, right, why they ought not believe it, right? But if I can't do that, it just seems like I should be agnostic with respect to knowledge, and be at least humble enough to say, look, I don't believe it. In fact, I believe the negation. I'm not justified, right? But what provides you justification if you're making the knowledge claim? Okay, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I feel like as I'm getting more specific and more focused, there's less and less people that actually realize that they're doing this. But a lot of them are. Some of them do something like this, where it is never it's never going to be my burden that God does not exist, right? And I don't think you're in that category, right? I think that if there's someone that's saying there is no God, if there is, that they might be a question of whether they're justified, right? But maybe that's not how you think. I don't know.
I would claim that there's that the idea of God or God's existing, as in a set of agents stealing your shoes, is ridiculous and shouldn't even be considered. I won't even consider it.
Well, then you're just not. Then the conversation. If the conversation was initially about knowledge, right? Then you're just not interested in the conversation. It seems to me.
Knowledge is, well,
because you don't know it. I know it, actually. If I know it's just more than just it being ridiculous, right? It's got to be more. If you're just,
well, it's okay. Like if you come to me and said there's a set of agents stealing shoes out there, right? That's actually a reasonable, or that is a relatively reasonable claim. But of course, you would have to give me some proof. You'd have to give me some reason to believe that they're out there stealing my shoes. Like my shoes would have to keep disappearing.
You mean reasonable? You mean coherent? Because there's a difference between something that's coherent and something that's reasonable.
Right. But I mean, I could imagine a set of people, because I understand, I know about human beings, and I even know a little bit about raccoons stealing fucking shoes to surprisingly, because they will steal them. So I know about agents, a set of agents that could steal shoes, and I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is an agent that creates universes or controls life or somehow is in the underlayment of reality, that sort of thing. I have a problem with that.
Okay.
So I think it's not even worth considering.
Yeah, and I have a problem with it too. Okay, I think I ultimately have a problem with it too. But the question is, do you have a true belief as you see it, or do you have a justified true belief? And when someone says God makes the claim that God does not exist, say that's true, and then not really, say that it's just merely ridiculous, right? And then say that they're making some kind of inference on the basis of its unintuitive nature or its ridiculous nature. I think that's irrational, right?
I'm not sure what part of that. I'm not sure what you were saying was irrational. Somehow.
Well, the inference is right. So that's to say something's ridiculous is to, I mean, that can mean a lot of things, but I think at the base of it, right? It's just it seems inconceivable, or there's a level of incredulity that it could be true, right?
Yeah.
And to say that because of my incredulity, therefore it doesn't exist, is a logical fallacy, right? So it's got to be something else, right?
Right, exactly.
Right. It can't just be so there are people that that when I was a theist that's told me it's it's ridiculous, therefore it's false, and I kind of questioned them to a point where they just said something like that, right? It just seems ridiculous to me. It's just I can't believe it, right? It's like, how could this happen? Therefore it's false. Literally make those kinds of inferences, And that's just irrational. It would be better if they said it's ridiculous. I know it's not false because it's ridiculous, but that's what explains my non-belief. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not irrational.
Yeah, when I say ridiculous, I mean the same thing that you would say if a teenager or somebody who should know better came to you and said the reason that there's snow outside these big snowbanks is because there's a giant on down the block mashing potatoes, and it's actually mashed potatoes. That's what I think of theism. I say it's ridiculous along those lines because it doesn't hash out. It doesn't work. So,
but even in the giant case, right? If one of my students told me there was like a dragon, across, 3 blocks down, right? If I said that dragon does not exist in virtue of my incredulity, that's still a fallacy, right? So it's got to be something. I think I don't think you're irrational. Ultimately, I think that what's meant by that analogy is that there's certain strong prior probabilities that you have, right? And something about the sorts of predictions that are made by these things. Something about falsification, right? There's other thing, probability, right? You're appealing. You could appeal to all sorts of things that would make it a justified belief to say that there are no giants or there's no dragon 4 blocks down, right? But I don't, which is why I don't think you're actually, when you say it's ridiculous, therefore it's false, you're not just appealing to your incredulity. I think you must be appealing to something else.
No, there's a lot more knowledge.
Right. And so when I say that sort of ridiculous thing, if I were to say that in a debate, I would probably substitute it for the word incoherent. Okay. So, but the problem is that giants are coherent, but I think the God concept as presented in monotheistic traditions is incoherent, right? So I think I'm justified by presenting arguments for why the concept is incoherent, right? You would appeal to the crazy case in which there were there's a giant, a 20-meter giant walking through the street, a few streets down. I would liken the God concept to be as ridiculous as a square with no sides or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's, to me, there's a big difference between a square with no sides and a giant that's 20 meters, right? I think
that's where I am now after going in many circles and thinking and adding many bits of knowledge.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. Right.
Yeah, so I think that there's a category error if someone were to not necessarily analogize how they feel about the proposition, which is I think what you did, but to make a claim that belief in God is like the belief in a fire-breathing dragon or Mount Everest, right? I think these are two different kinds of belief because they belong to two different ontological categories, right? One generates predictions and the other one does not. Okay, so now I totally would agree with you ultimately, and I don't ever do you think that's funny. So I don't ever I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's the idea. They're two different categories, so they need to be addressed very differently, right? If a theist, I think, is saying that God generates predictions, I have arguments against that, right? But I'm not going to argue that dragons don't generate predictions. I think they do, right? If we're sharing some concept, right?
Right.
They do generate predictions. So on Mount Everest, there should be something that seems like a lizard, that has scales, that might have wings, that has a tail, that has sharp teeth, right? And if they just keep on saying that, oh, well, no, it's a dragon that it doesn't have any of these things, then I'm just going to say, you and I don't know what you're talking about anymore, right? So I say, well, look, okay, if there's a dragon on Mount Everest, I would expect these things. And like, oh, no, this is the kind of dragon that doesn't generate those predictions. Then I feel like they're talking about googly glock. They're telling me there's a googly glock on Mount Everest. I have no idea what they're talking about, right? So that's how it works for me, right, in terms of how I approach the issue. Are you talking about a thing that generates predictions? Okay, if so, what predictions does it make? Are you saying that if we were to disconfirm or not observe that thing, would that disconfirm whatever entity that you're positing? Oh, it wouldn't. Well, then there's a problem of falsifiability, and
Right.
this is the grounds in which I'm going to reject this kind of entity. And okay, now if they're presenting philosophical argumentation for like the necessity of the thing, this is a different puppy altogether. We're not even talking about evidence anymore, right? Like for instance, very commonly, many Neoplatonists will argue that numbers are indispensable, right? They're abstract objects that are indispensable, that exist necessarily, blah, 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 right? And there's no sense in talking about evidence in that case, right? The Neoplatonist has to give an argument for why these things exist by the meanings of the words or by a certain set of premises that eventually get you to a conclusion, right? That's very different kind of a different way to approach the support of the claim. Much more different than how you would establish a kind of physical entity like a dragon, right?
Yeah. Leo keeps asking if we're going to talk about naturalism. I think we maybe are.
Okay.
Oh, shit. I just unshared my screen instead of unsharing the comment. Let's see. Okay. Let me try to get rid of the God is good goggly gawk. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to get rid of that. So, okay, generates predictions like the mashed potato example. If I claim that, yeah, we could go out and see if the snow is mashed potatoes, and that would be a prediction, and it would falsify the proposition, basically that. Yeah. So
based on what we expect to see, if we don't see that, then it's just not that thing, right?
Right, and I find basically that naturalism never lets me down in that fashion, and that's one reason why I'm a naturalist. And I like something that philosophers frequently forget is that you're this philosopher right here, right? And you have this giant set of knowledge. You have this bag of knowledge bits, right? But you came from this little tiny toddler over here. When you popped out your mama, the first thing you did was poke yourself in the eye, and that was your first little bit of knowledge. And so brains develop, okay? But that's kind of getting ahead. That's getting a little bit ahead of the story. What I support naturalism by basically there is a get rid of this. I'm here, okay? I'm this thing right here, right? And I am in this locality, okay? And I call it a locality. And a locality means right now there's a little bit of light coming in from the street. Some star out there might be punching through and having a little bit of an effect on me. For the most part, I'm in a roughly 25 by 30 or 30 by 30 foot room. And my locality is what's around me, okay? And what I interact with in this locality. So there's an interaction with things like my coffee cup. These things make sense to me as a human being, which is one of the things that you get when you're that little toddler. By the time you're a year or two old, you have amassed something like 100,000 maybe little me-mets that allow you to interact with reality and interact with 4-dimensional space-time, okay? And it all works out all the time, okay? And because it works out, you are able to function, and you're able to eventually feed yourself and walk around and do things and become an agent and all that sort of thing. But this is all developmental, and we have to remember that. But we want to bracket that for the moment. But it is developmental. So all of these knowledge bits, come to where I am right now. And everything, okay, how would you define naturalism?
Yeah, million dollar question. So there are three terms that get slung around, right? That kind of relate to a similar view. There's naturalism, materialism, and physicalism, right? Those are all three.
Yeah.
Now, materialism and physicalism. One of the reasons why those are distinguished is basically the existence of like certain relational properties that we would consider physical but not material. So, for instance, if let's say I'm let's say I'm 6 foot and you're 6'2", okay, and there's a relational property between us. I am taller than you, or okay, or I don't even know. I don't remember who was taller, but let's just pretend I'm taller than you. I didn't really need to give specific measurements, but let's say me being taller than you is not material itself, right? Imagine uh, like you being in a room where you're the tallest person in the room, right? And then I walk in the room and suddenly your relational properties change, but the material has not changed, right? So I think part of what the word physical does, what the word physical does that material may not do, is kind of implement the set of relational properties as a kind of natural thing, right? So, but yeah, you're going to
So
get different. Yeah, go ahead.
So materialism would hold that inches are not spirits, or that this.
No, they're not. It's not really talking about it, right? It's like saying it's. Well, I don't know what they would say exactly, but I'm just telling you that um, in our language, we talk a material as some kind of like thing, object, right? But relational properties are not objects, right?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And so but they're physical. So and so that's one way we distinguish physicalism and materialism. I think one of the reasons why you might hear physicalism more often is because it accounts for relational properties. Now, naturalism, oh my gosh, this is a very problematic term, but in these circles, like on it usually just talks about what can be in principle discovered by or studied by the sciences, what can be in principle modeled by scientific theories and laws, right? Now, there are weird variants of naturalism, but this is how I usually use it, right? And this is how most people use it, that the thing is in principle observable with some kind of capacity, right? That something's natural if it can be modeled in a kind of uniform way, right? Something like that, right? I talked about earlier in your streams, like the idea that something is natural if laws kind of govern it, you know. And I accept those kinds of definitions. That's how I'm using the term. Granted, other people use the term differently. If we were to talk about their version of naturalism, it'd just be a very different conversation, right?
Okay. So I drew 3 circles here for materialism at the center, which would just be, the basically objects and material and crap like that. And then physicalism, which would also have these relationships.
Motion is not an object, right? It's a relation of objects, right? It's a kind of set of relational properties. Yeah. You see?
If you look at block time, motion is a little weird. So anyway, but that's an aside. Oh, okay. So physicalism would have the relationship of objects to one another.
I think so, which are considered natural or physical themselves, but not necessarily material. It would be weird to say that they're material.
But unless we get into relativity and really weird cosmology, as far as we're concerned, we can represent that with on a Cartesian plane, basically.
Okay.
Okay, a 4-dimensional Cartesian structure. Okay, so we could represent that relationship, that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then naturalism would extend that to the point where that would be okay if something is proceeding at a certain, accelerating at a certain rate, then there has to be a force, and there are these laws. So it's kind of normative.
I wouldn't say normative. Normative. Yeah, there's a big.
I always have a problem with the word normative. Can you tell me?
Yes.
Law-like. Okay. What is the word for law-like? There's another word for that. Law-like.
Laws and nomological.
Nomological.
Right. Yeah. So nomological laws are considered to be usually natural, although some people posit metaphysical laws that are considered nomological, but they're not natural.
Okay.
Basically think of nomological as not like laws that are not logical, right? They're not like law of identity, law of non-contradiction, law of bivalence, something like that.
Yeah, they'd be laws on that Cartesian plane, basically. That would the way the universe behaves. So we would extend it into naturalism and say that we have these nomological relationships that we found in addition to this relationship of where things are.
Yeah, I think this is agreeable. Like, yeah, I think natural laws are nomological laws. I don't accept metaphysical constraints, so that's why for me, like, if I there, so natural constraints or natural laws, right? They constrain the way the behavior of natural things, of material, and they constrain motion and all these relational properties. But then some people want to say that there's like these necessary set of like metaphysical laws, and sometimes they might call those nomological, and I reject those. I don't think those make much sense, or they collapse into physical or logical rules. Like some people might think that, like, for an example that you might hear of a metaphysical law that I think just ends up being identity is something like Leibniz's law. I think it's also the law of indiscernibles, which is the idea that A is B if and only if they share all the same properties, right? But to me, this just tells me this just kind of reduces down to it is what it is, or A is A. So,
Yeah.
but some people want to say that's some kind of like metaphysical law. But
you reject those?
Well, no, I don't reject it as a separate category of laws. I think that just is understood. It's just a kind of elaboration on identity, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how. So there are other ones too that I'm not prepared to give, but
Yeah. I always make a distinction between metaphysics and metahui. And metahui is what a lot of people think metaphysics is, or what you mentioned. What you mentioned is actually metaphysics when you start talking about if you have objects in a plane or whatever, and there's a relation between them. Well, can they be in the same spot? And crap like that. So I mean, that's real metaphysics when you start trying to model a universe and you start thinking about the laws that you would model it with, that sort of thing. That would be metaphysics. And I have these, I call them minimal metaphysical models. So M cubed, minimal metaphysical models, where you actually get out a computer program and you try to work out a system of reality with little dots, basically on a Cartesian plane or whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't have to be a Cartesian plane. You start working out, like you'll ask yourself, okay, there's a distance between particle A and particle B. What if distance is a property, a relationship between them, and there isn't really, you want to stop thinking about distance. Now you want to think you have these packed particles and they have these relationships that turn them into space. That's what I call metaphysics. But let's not go down that hole.
Well, yeah, I guess I mean something very different.
Okay.
But
Okay.
It's what I mean by metaphysics.
What you described was kind of like that.
Okay.
Leibniz's what is it? Indiscernibility.
Well, it's just saying that if let me show you. I guess speed of sound is the person that is talking to Danny, right? Now if that's an identity claim, that means that the person is talking to Danny and speed of sound share all the same predications or properties.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
That's
okay.
all. Yeah.
Is that Quining or is that Kripke?
That's Leibniz. Leibniz is
Leibniz. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Quine got into it quite a bit, right? And so,
definitely. He's
Frege and all of them did, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just I think, but the point is that some like Kripke accepts some level of metaphysical uniformity or constraints. Like he thinks that water is, for instance, essentially H2O.
Yeah.
Right. This was a big deal big deal because it always was traditionally that water is H2O with some kind of contingent fact, meaning that you could have water and have some other kind of molecular formula in some other weird possible world, right? But Kripke was making the claim that no. If it's essentially H2O, and so if you were to encounter what you think to be water and it has a different molecular structure, it's just not water. Right, okay. And that employs a kind of so that's called essentialism, or I think it's called de re necessity, and it's a very wild kind of
de re and de
thought,
dicta.
right? Well, yeah, it's de re. Yeah, de dicta is the necessity of a statement, or whereas where de re is the necessity of a thing. Like so, the necessity. right? So he brings that in, and it influences lots of philosophers, including a lot of theistic philosophers, right? After a lot of theists want to talk about the essence of a thing, right? That's actually pretty important to them. A lot of their metaphysics uses the term nature or essence, and they rely on stuff like Kripke's work to make sense of some of their claims, like God is good, is a kind of synthetic claim. And it invokes God's nature, God's essence of who He is. That's what the good is. They talk about that, right? There's like a necessity to God, right, with respect to His properties, right? That if you were to encounter something that you thought to be God, but he lied all the time, and I don't know, did all these other various things that that don't conform with what we take to be God in this world, then it's just we're not talking about the same thing anymore.
Yeah.
But it's hard to differentiate to me. Like, I reject all of that, but we want to talk about naturalism, but I think there's problems there. But yeah.
Okay, so naturalism. So okay, we have materialism, which is you don't like the objects, what things are made of, that sort of thing, and then we have physicalism, which is the relationship between objects, and then we have naturalism, which would add pretty much all of physics and all of these nomological consistencies. And so, from naturalism, we can do essentially all of science. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I do agree with that.
Okay.
Right.
So all of science is subsumed by naturalism, but then you have to be careful because there is this reductive science. And on top of that, at the outer edges of naturalism, there is an entirely new world happening out there with biosemiotics and with multiple hierarchies and all sorts of stuff. So you want to be careful not to judge naturalism as being this insipid, reductive science. So it's not entirely reductive.
Well, naturalism is, to me, a view that kind of is the foundation for science, right? So if I'm attacking naturalism, I'm usually, that's not an attack on science, right? To say that, like, there's naturalism with respect to this discipline, and then there's other things are not natural, isn't philosophical naturalism, right? So yeah, I don't want my attack on naturalism, right, is an attack on philosophical naturalism, which is not an attack on science, right? So when you preface that, look, there's quote unquote naturalism with respect to science. Well, I think what that means is that science doesn't consider immaterial things, intentional explanations, that sort of things that wouldn't be in principle be able to be modeled or be understood in terms of theories or laws. Okay. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, so
your attack on philo-naturalism is
philosophical.
What?
Okay.
You said it couldn't be supported. Why
it can't be supported. Well, there are lots of. So the biggest issues, I think, have to do. I guess there are three ways of understanding, or some basic. I'll just make my assertions, okay? But yeah, definitely number one is my view on philosophy of mind. Okay. The second thing is the problem of abstract objects. Okay. And the third thing is the idea of a singular ontological category creates problems for whatever kind of term you use of that category, and it makes it kind of vacuous, right? That's a little. So I could elaborate on that, but it's sort of like the same kind of objection to psychological egoism. I think that's what it's called. But the idea that all human action is selfish. I don't know. Like, this is like very Hobbesian. There are other people that forwarded egoism, or so there were different variants of egoism. Not all of them believe this, but there's like a unsophisticated version of egoism that defines all human action, as one category of being selfish, right? But what that does is it renders the phrase "a selfish action" to be redundant and uninformative.
Yeah,
right?
Because it's all.
Right, exactly. So if you categorize everything as natural, right? Then to say a natural thing is redundant, because all things are natural. You can just say things, right? And that's more of a cursory kind of response to philosophical naturalism, but I think it's a problem nonetheless. And this is the same kind of problem that I object to these egoists, right? I'm like, look, you're just draining the concept of selfish. We want to distinguish between selfish and altruistic, but if you define every action as selfish, you make the notion altruistic as an incoherent concept, not able to be used, and you render the notion of selfish it's lost its meaning, right? Because all actions are selfish, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same issue, right? Where, okay, you want to say that's a natural thing. How are you just not saying that's a thing? All right. Presumably you're wanting to. There's some distinct properties that of a natural thing that's distinct from a non-natural thing, right? And I think that presumably you're contrasting it with something, right?
There's this interloper out there. All things are natural, but not all natural things are the same. But naturalism is still coherent.
No,
He said
no,
coherent. I
no.
thought he said incoherent.
Listen to my analogy, right? Look, all human decisions are selfish, but of course, not all human decisions are equal to each other, right? But they all can be predicate. You can predicate selfishness of each action, which kind of makes the notion of a selfish action to be uninformative, right? So just use the psychological egoism example as a means of understanding the problem of acuity or the vacuous nature of the term. If you do that,
right. So basically, I run into that all the time with when I try to talk about what the supernatural is. When I explain the universe as this locality where these natural laws basically hold in this one little locality where we happen to be for 30, 40 billion light years, what? So billion light years. And then out here, shit could fall apart. So when I start talking about how shit falls apart, I am talking about what I would consider supernatural. The only sensible meaning for supernatural would be where these laws no longer apply.
I think that there's an epistemic issue there, right? I actually wouldn't make the claim that it's non-natural if it's the case that I could not model, or I didn't know, rather, let me repeat this, that I don't know how to model it, right? Because here's the problem with respect to our observations and our empirical data and whether something's natural and non-natural, right? The thing is that there's always going to be a problem of underdetermination, right? But you can rely on the predictable, the novel predictions that are made of natural hypotheses in order to confirm those. But the non-natural doesn't confirm any of that. So the point with respect to what you just wrote here, the tail end of that as being supernatural, it doesn't follow that if we don't know how to model it, that therefore it's non-natural. That does not follow. So one has to present a very strong argument, right, for why something is non-natural, and they're not going to be able to appeal to their observations, I think, right, or the fact that they don't know how to observe it or how to model it. I think that's not sufficient. Otherwise, you get into big issues with respect to, I don't know how to model this, right? It's inconceivable to me, therefore God did it, or there's some non-natural explanation, right? It's got the claim is extremely strong to say that it can't be a naturalistic explanation, right? That is a very hard claim to substantiate, right?
Well, if I am, of course, you don't know how I'm looking at naturalism. If I'm looking at naturalism as this locality, okay, and I'm calling this, say, post-natural, something outside of that locality, that doesn't mean that we can't learn mathematically to model that we can't model a greater cosmos that has all these little mini local universes embedded in it, like nuts in a fucking fruit cake. That there isn't some. So I'm not saying that we can't model it or that we just don't know what it is. But I'm saying that right now I'm calling naturalism what does follow these laws that we can that we find in our locality.
Okay, well, so if there's just imagine yourself without all the fancy science, because I don't. Maybe you need the fancy science, but the point is that you and I agree that if we don't know how to model it, it doesn't follow that it's not natural.
Right.
Okay, good. So, and you and I agree that math is used to model, but in
Right.
itself, we're not modeling math, right? And that brings us to, the where does math come into play here? Is it a natural thing or a non-natural thing? But could you not try and argue? Could you? No, I don't think so.
That apparent violations or anomalies in nature are counterexamples to.
No, I don't think I would disagree. I don't think that there's any observable anomaly or violation that will substantiate the claim to that there is a non-natural entity. I don't think that's possible, right? Because just because, like I said, if it's the case that we don't know how to model it, okay, but it's logically possible that we could model it, then it will never follow that therefore it's a non-natural explanation. It will never, ever follow, right?
Okay, so it sounds like I'm saying naturalism is a locality, and I would go where you're going, but it's like you already beat me to it. You're
Okay.
saying it's all natural.
Well, what is all natural?
Anything that could happen, even the anomalies, even out here.
When I think what I'm saying here is that our observations, right, and our or our inability or our lack of knowledge how to model things is never going to be sufficient justification for arguing for non-naturalism. I agree.
Okay.
It will not all of my observations or the fact that I don't know how to model something will never support, right, or justify non-naturalism. Okay, I agree with you there. Okay, so if naturalism is false, it has to be on the basis of something that's not. I'm not going to be able to appeal to any of my observations. I have to purely depend on some kind of analytic set of premises, argumentation, philosophical inquiry, right?
Okay.
Which I don't think observations are a thing that, like, no observation, I don't think, can confirm one kind of philosophical position over another, right? And that's controversial, obviously very controversial, right? But go ahead.
You're saying that we could only encounter synthetic things, basically. And
you're gonna have to kind of elaborate on that.
Okay. That basically we're not going to find these anomalies in our locality. We're not going to be able to find anything that would support supernatural in what we can see, touch, hear, feel.
Right. Let me understand you. That if we were to see something that's not consistent with our models and our theories and our laws, right, that's not sufficient that therefore there's non-naturalism. We would sooner abandon those theories for a bit or shift our paradigm or something before we're justified in saying that, oh, that was a fairy or that was God, right?
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, right? So if I'm going to argue against naturalism, I have to argue it on the basis of reason, right? I have to argue on the basis of meaning. I can't appeal to any observations, right? Now, at the same time, I want to put a side note here. If you're presented with an anomaly in your life, let's say you have this ridiculous experience that seems like what some people would call a religious experience, you're not irrational for thinking that it's that there's some non-natural explanation. You would be irrational to infer from your observation that it's necessarily a non-natural explanation. There's a big difference, right? So if someone is faced with a really weird, quote-unquote, religious experience, right, if they recognize that there could be a naturalistic explanation, they could have hallucinated, they could have something weird happen with their brain, whatever, or that it could be some other kind of divine intervention. As long as they recognize that, when they choose one, they are not irrational. It's only when they say there's a claim, only when there's a claim of necessity are they irrational. Okay, so I have a third category for that, right? The third category is this: it's an irrational belief, right? There's rational beliefs, irrational beliefs, and irrational beliefs. Irrational beliefs are beliefs that you hold that you admit that you have no reason to hold, but you don't have or rather you didn't get via an inference. Okay.
Okay.
So, and that should also be distinguished from perceptual knowledge, which is also non-inferable though, and self-knowledge, which is non-inferable. But propositional knowledge, right, is going to be a kind of knowledge that we infer things from, right? We have a justification. There's a set line of reasoning, a valid line of reasoning, a sound line of reasoning that that's there to establish the knowledge label, right? But there's some some beliefs that we hold. Of course, beliefs are defined as propositional. That is not inferred, not perceptual, and not anything to do with self-knowledge. And so we kind of just look at it. I'm like, something explains this belief. I'm not even sure what it is, but I'm fine with holding it nonetheless because there's utility with respect to it or whatever, right? I'm fine with it. They're not being rational or irrational. It's just irrational. It just doesn't have to do with inference, right?
Okay.
So I think that's what happens with religious experiences. So if someone pulls a religious experience thing on me and says, look, I don't know. I believe in God and I had this weird religious experience and that's what explains my belief in God. I have no problem with that, right? It's not a reason for me to believe. It's not an argument, right? They're just talking about, basically it's the equivalent of saying, to me, I got hit with a baseball bat and I have this new belief that there's a teacup on the other side of the moon, right? I think it's essentially the same kind of belief, right?
That actually fucking happens to people.
Yeah, I don't.
Certain kinds of brain damage.
Yeah, and they just have these beliefs. They're not inferred. They don't. It's not like they don't recognize a contradiction with their other beliefs. So we talk about like they have no prior commitments to let go of the belief, right? And so they just kind of have it, and they just don't revise. They don't revise the belief, right? I don't think that has anything to do with inference or argumentation or even like some kind of it's just benign. It's a benign belief to me, right? That doesn't deserve any kind of label of irrationality.
Lori Hayes thinks you're flip-flopping. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't really detected that, except so far you're supporting naturalism pretty well.
Well,
you're doing a goddamn good job.
Well,
thank you. I appreciate that.
I think that the young Earth creationists and just a lot of the creationists I counter on the internet are wrong about the evidence for God, right? Because what did I say earlier, right? That you cannot appeal to your observations as a claim, as a kind of argument, right, for why there's a God, because those observations will always be consistent with some unknown naturalistic explanation.
Right.
Right. And I'm a firm believer of that. I'm very consistent on that. Right. Okay. And so there's a question about, okay, so then Danny, how is it that you reject naturalism? Well, it's not on the basis of any of my observations or any data. Right. That doesn't make any sense to me. Right. That it's on the basis of reason and what I mean by reason there, I mean argumentation, premises, the meanings of words. Right. So there are a lot of avenues. There's the intuition pumps, right? The intuition pumps are not very strong arguments, but they get you thinking about some of the issues. Okay.
Are you channeling Dennett?
Oh yeah, I am actually. Yeah, I think that's a very useful term, intuition pumps, because I don't want to say that this definitively cancels out naturalism, because there are replies to some of these intuition pumps. And I can provide some of them if I can recall them. But here's some intuition pumps. One of the weirdest things, right, is this notion of ofness and aboutness. Okay,
what?
Ofness and aboutness, right? That is one of the weirdest things to me. That
omniscient,
ofness and aboutness.
Oh, ofness and aboutness.
So let me talk about this very briefly. I'm going to ask a set of rhetorical questions for anyone that's listening, right? Is water of something? Is hydrogen of something? Is an electron about something else? Seems like a weird question. Maybe in principle you could answer it, but nonetheless, there's something weird about this question. Is silicon dioxide of or about something else? What does that mean? It seems unintelligible. Now watch this. Are your beliefs about things? Are your desires of things? Well, that makes sense, right? And it makes sense because beliefs and desires are defined as the kinds of states that are of and about something else. right? I have a belief about the outside. I have beliefs about you. I have beliefs about myself. I have desire. I have desires of what I want to do in life, right? I have desires of eating, right? Of being rich, of having a girlfriend, having fun, right? This makes a lot of sense, right? So, but to apply ofness of light, what is light of, or what is a table of, right? What is the sun about? Seems to be weird, right? And so this notion of ofness and aboutness, right, for me, will boil down to more rigorous arguments of the mind, right? But that's one of the prima facie things that, okay, there seems to be this category of things that fit ofness and aboutness, that and there's a category of things that don't. And one of the things I've noticed that they don't is that when I predicate ofness or aboutness of a kind of physical thing, let's say the atoms or tables or suns, planets, right? It gets kind of weird. Light, quantum particles. It just doesn't make the notion of ofness and aboutness seems to not just apply, right? And so a response, right? Well, excuse me, what the hell do you mean by ofness or aboutness, right? You need to break that down for us to really know whether it could apply to a physical thing. Fair enough, right? But and there's some response. It's not a really good argument so much as to get you thinking. Well, okay, now there's these kinds of categories that make sense with respect to these predications, and some that don't, right? And there seems to be a pattern. Okay, did you want to say anything?
No, I'm just trying to. I guess I'm having trouble seeing that as odd, or I'm just wondering if you're on drugs. Because yeah, but yeah, you're seeing something that is surprising to you, and it's not surprising to me that electrons are not of something or about something other than,
well, it's of something else, right? So look, if I look, because my desire to have a conversation is about the conversation, which is something factually outside of myself, I guess, or if I'm thinking about a tree, the tree is outside of that state, right? It's a state about something else, right? But if you examine the physical facts of hydrogen, it seems like those facts will only pertain to hydrogen itself, not about anything else, right?
right?
With exception to relational properties, right? So you could talk about the proximity of a hydrogen atom to an oxygen atom in a water molecule, right? But is that tracking? When I say that my belief is about a tree or about you, I'm not really talking about a relational property in the sense of distance and even time, right? I'm not talking about something that's moving with respect to my belief and what I'm thinking about you, right? It's not like I'm describing some kind of motion. When I'm the state is not describing a kind of motion between the state itself and the thing that it's about, right? So that what would it mean to someone if you were to say, hey, that electron is about something else other than the electron, right? I think that's the key question, right? And if it's something that makes sense to you, so be it, right? It wasn't so much designed to argue against naturalism so much as a lot of people start to think about, well, how does this really apply to a category of thing that I usually call physical, right?
Yeah. Okay. I guess because I am such a goddamn physicalist, and I see everything hashing out, including the mind and human beings, I don't find it surprising that humans would say that something. You're talking about intentional states, right?
Right, exactly. These are intentional states. Intentional states are usually defined this way.
Yeah, but the odd thing is that you came at this from a totally different direction. Usually people are trying to figure out intentional states, and you're trying to figure out non-intentional states, it seems like.
Well, to understand an intentional state, you have to understand what it's not, right? It's like you can understand what right is if you know what wrong is, right?
Yeah, okay.
So,
well,
but the point is that I offered no argument. Nothing I feel like what I said should commit you to my view. It's just a kind of like maybe you didn't get the intuition that I got. Maybe some person in the chat did. Whatever, right? It's an interesting thing to think about. What intentionality for me is a big problem. Okay,
Let's see if anybody got it.
But well, yeah, well, that's
Hey,
just
fucking
it.
cats are fighting.
That's fine. Yeah, so it wasn't an argument. So I didn't mean to present it as an argument. Some people are just kind of like think about it, right? Now I can break that down more, okay? Because I don't define intentional states this way. Because I think that there's a kind of demand about what upness and aboutness is, right? It's kind of nebulous to say that X is about Y. Well, what does that mean, right? What is to say that X is directed at Y? My thoughts are directed at you,
Yeah.
right? You know, and I do break that down, right? And that goes into our philosophy of mind talk, right? Okay, but with respect to mind is not the only thing that I think motivates me out of naturalism. The second thing is abstract objects, right? The thing is that I firmly believe that the properties of numbers are properties that we discover. Okay, I discovered that 9 was divisible by 3. I discovered that the square root of 64 is 8. Right? These are things that I came to know. Okay, I don't consider them to be inventions. I don't think that the fact that the square root of 9 is 3 is somehow a kind of merely a mental phenomena or psychological phenomena. Frege,
Okay, good. I agree with you.
all right. Frege wrote some really good arguments against this view, right? Against the psychological nature of math. He rejected it. There were some philosophers that forwarded it. He also rejected the empirical nature of numbers. I think Mill, I could be wrong, someone could maybe attest to this, but I think John Stuart Mill was an empiricist about numbers, thinking that when we looked at 9 objects, we were seeing the number 9, right? That kind of thing, right? That it was a kind of an empirical phenomenon, right? Ultimately speaking. But Frege, I think, does a very good job dismantling that numbers are empirical things that we see or with our kind of our senses. And also, they're not psychological phenomena either, right? Mathematical statements or truths or entities, right? So then, of course, Frege is famous for positing the third realm, kind of branding himself as a kind of Neoplatonist. Well, that's kind of Neoplatonist is a redundancy. So he branded himself as a Neoplatonist, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, there's something I'm talking about when I'm predicating something of it, right? If I'm predicating a property of the number 7 that it's prime, there is something that I'm making a predication of, and not only that, it's a kind of property that I can actually learn or come to discover. To say that these objects don't exist, I think would jeopardize this kind of endeavor or this kind of process, right? So again, this is a kind of cursory, very lazy argument, I think, on my opinion, for Platonism. But I think it's still simple for me to simple for me enough to where I am sort of think there's a big problem here that numbers are not things that in principle we could observe. Think about infinities and sets, for instance, right? We don't observe infinity. We certainly have a concept of infinity, right? And that refers to the abstract, realm, the third realm, as Frege would say, the forms, as Plato would say. And I think that also there are things outside of mathematical entities like propositions or that which is true or that which is false are things that I don't take to be psychological either or empirical either, right? So you and I have a belief that 2 + 2 = 4, or we have a belief that it's the year 2021, right? Or we have the belief that there are 8 planets. And what is it that unifies our belief such that we can say that there's some kind of thing that's similar or the same, right? And most people are going to appeal to this thing called a proposition, right? Now, propositions are one of the weirdest things in philosophy because you really can't, it's really hard to talk about them other than that they just bear the truth and falsity, right? And that they're the things that we ultimately appeal to, I think, to say that you and I have the same belief. Well, what that means is that there's this one proposition that we have an attitude of, right? So, and so now, if it's the case that propositions exist in the natural world, then in principle it couldn't be the same because they have different locations, right? So remember, if we go back to Leibniz's law, what it the necessary conditions for identity or for sameness is that all the properties must be shared, right, between the two things. So the proposition for us to say that we have the same belief is to say that the proposition that you have an attitude of and the proposition I have an attitude of have the same. That's if those are the same proposition, all the properties are in common, right? So that means they would have the same location. But that's a problem, right? Because it seems like you're in a different location than I am, right? So that means that the propositions, if they're kind of natural, they would have different locations. And so what are we going to appeal to say that we have the same belief, right? So that's a concern with respect to abstract entities. People like me are going to say that these propositions may exist on a abstract level, right, rather than a psychological level, right? Whereas the psychological aspect of belief lies in the attitude aspect of the belief, right? We have different attitudes of the same. Well, we both have a kind of holding of a proposition, right? And we can talk about holding in terms of other propositions, but ultimately it's going to be my attitude and your attitude, which is directed at the same proposition, right? So that the thing that makes it to where we can say we have the same belief is ultimately the propositional part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so damn. So you see my little drawing here, 3 + 4 and 3 + 4. We have, two different sets of 7 objects, that sort of thing. And we're communicating, and we're looking at the same objects from different places on the Earth, looking at the planets or whatever. I don't see that as a problem when you consider what our brains do and how and what we are. So I think I'm not sure how much further we should go because I am going to get tired and I'm going to lose it. But I know you could go for about 12 fucking hours here.
No, that's probably right.
Yeah. I don't usually do it that way. So we have this problem of the mind that basically, like, my naturalism starts at where I am in my locality, right? And then I start looking at objects around me and stuff like that, and I call this common sense knowledge R1. Okay. And then I can extend R1 to this greater circle where we can start doing science on things, because we can start measuring things, and we can start figuring out that I'm 7 inches from this and 7 inches from that and whatever. And then we end up with something called R2, which is, the scientific way of looking at it. And then what I do is I look back onto myself and start considering myself as an object in that space, right, in science. And then I start looking at neuroscience. And then when I start looking at neuroscience, I conclude that I have explained everything about myself, about what I think, about what I feel. I have subsumed everything, and there's nothing out here. There is no metaphysical space outside of that. And that's why I call myself a naturalist.
Right. I would need to present an argument for why, because I haven't presented an argument with respect to the mind yet, right?
Yeah, I know.
But we would have to talk about that, maybe dedicate another hour later.
Yeah, I think we should do like an hour, no more than an hour and a half at a time on this stuff. But the mind would be next. And so I mean, we're right up against the mind, particularly with aboutness. When you're talking about humans having a relationship with electrons and two humans, you and me having this relationship with objects that are 7, that sort of thing. We have to talk about mind, I think, because a lot of what you said, a lot of what I call it, I'm sorry, and I apologize for this, but I call it the confusion of tool making apes. Okay. We tend in philosophy, love it, but a lot of the shit that's generated about identities and forms and abstract objects and all of that seems to me to be a confusion of a rather limited organism trying to understand the world around him. And I see a lot of it that way.
Okay. And, well, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's sort of kind of a fuck you, but and I apologize for that.
No, it's
But
okay. I mean, I understand.
but I try to flush everything out in terms of this model, basically, where I look back on myself and I ask what am I in relationship to this world, and why am I feeling things. But we could end that part right there. And I wanted to mention, you were talking about varieties of religious experience. I have had spiritual and religious experiences that are pretty powerful, and they've shaped my life. And they don't seem to be of the type you're talking about, where you see a flash above the cross, like Sal was talking about. Mine are basically kind of an internal state, or a really radical change of my mind, and how I perceive things. William James, Huxley, all those guys were talking about.
William James, you said, the guy that wrote Will to Believe. Is that?
I think he wrote Varieties of Religious Experience.
Yeah. He was a pragmatist, right? Is that?
I'm not
William
sure.
James? Okay.
I've
heard of him. I think.
But anyway, these people talked about something that happens across all religions, that happened to people, throughout history. They've talked about these burning bush experiences where the world lights up and you have this sudden insight in this, suddenly you see everything and all this bullshit. But it's called a religious experience, and it's something that actually happens to brains. And I see it that way, but I've had these experiences from the inside. So I just wanted to point out that when you mentioned religious experiences, it almost sounds like you were talking about the Cell version, which was, he saw something, he had a hallucination. And I'm not talking about that with spirituality or religious experience. I'm talking about something else, but that's something else we could talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what else to call it, but the point is that some people look at their certain events in their life as anomalous, right, in some kind of way.
Yeah.
To the point where they're faced with a decision of whether they think it's like intentional or naturalistic explanation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like 14 years ago, April 1st, it'll be 14 years, I sobered up. And things happened to me on those 2 or 3, or probably the 3 months leading up to it, and particularly on the last day that I used alcohol and drugs, that I could easily construe to have been the hand of God. And in fact, when I talk about it to people who don't know that I'm a hard naturalist and atheist, they will swear to Christ I'm talking about God and religion, because shit happened in my brain.
I had a similar experience, actually. It was very, very strange. And it was more like the internal, kind of like, I think you described it pretty accurately. It was like an internal thing. And it still kind of bothers me, but ultimately, I think that I'm holding to more. It's like, to me, if I had some, imagine if I look at God as a square triangle, right, on a Euclidean plane, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's more of a problem than me, except kind of just attributing that kind of experience to a naturalistic explanation, right? And if I didn't see God in that kind of light, like some kind of walking contradiction, then I probably would pay a lot more attention to those kinds of experiences.
Right.
But,
if you have a prior belief in God or religion, you're gonna view these experiences very differently than I do.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's just that all of my life like I say, my mom tried to get me into Christianity when I was a little boy, like maybe from the time I was 6 to about 8 or 9. And I just rejected it. So I've always been an atheist. And because of that, I see things, I see attributing it to some, supernatural, weird ass, and I'm sorry, I call it sky fairies or sky daddies or whatever, because that just sort of spells out clearly my disdain for the idea.
Yeah, I don't have that disdain, right? I don't think. Okay. I mean, and I really don't. I really, I think it's a, I don't know. Like, I have a very different attitude. But of course, I came from that sort of belief system, right? So maybe if I didn't, I would have a similar kind of disdain. But I'm not even saying that you ought, you ought, although I think that it depends on who the Christian is, or who depends who the believer is. But I
Well,
guess I hated when people compared the God that I had loved and the God that I followed as a sky daddy.
okay.
And
Yeah.
so I guess it's triggering in a very indirect sense. But I guess, like, okay, like, there's there was a friend of mine or acquaintance of mine named Venus, and I think he was ex-Muslim, but he was talking. Venus was talking to a Muslim, right? And Muslims are not so much into philosophy. They're not. They don't really care for natural theology. Their language of justification relies on hermeneutics, relies on text, relies on the hadiths and the oral tradition, right? That's where they get a lot of their justifications from, right?
Yeah.
And um, so giving a conceptual argument to a Muslim is not as effective, right? But then my friend Venus, or he knows how to talk to a Muslim, and he cited all these all these Quranic verses and hadiths to show that that Muhammad did marry at 6 and consummated a marriage at not. Oh, sorry, did marry a girl at the age of 6 and did seem to consummate the marriage when she was 9, right? And now he did
Thanks,
this
guy.
very delicately, right? Because you got to. Can you imagine thinking that one of the Superman of your world is Muhammad, and here you have someone telling you that he was a pedophile, right? In some
Right.
sense, right?
Right.
It's such torture for them, right? And I kind of empathize with it, right? And I later messaged Venus was very, very sensitive to this, right? He was not being disrespectful. He was just showing him the verses as if to tell him, look, a very, very sad truth, like it wasn't a kind of like, well, your prophet is a effing pedophile, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and so that, I guess that's how I feel, right? If someone went to a Muslim and just said, yeah, Muhammad, he was a effing pedophile, and you worship, you like, this and that, right? I feel really bad for them, because I kind of understand what it means to put someone at the center of your worldview, like Muhammad or Jesus, right? And for someone to kind of shake that, right, is a shake to your identity. It's like they're taking what you
Yeah.
identify with and shaking it. It's like what I imagine a transgender might feel when they're misgendered, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
No. It's nasty, and it's but we get frustrated.
oh no, but I mean, sometimes I don't. I think it's deserved. I mean, but I'm saying, generally speaking, I think that language ought to be avoided. But I'm a particularist, so it's just depends on the case.
But the thing is, I use the word God all the time to explain certain states of mind, and to people who don't know that I'm an atheist. And you could take this action figure of God, and you can explain a ton, God and religion, and you can explain a ton of human psychology with it, and therefore, in that sense, it's not bad. But in the from the Buddhist perspective, you should never believe in your shit. You should never fixate or assign a belief to this thing. And once you do that, you've missed the mark. You've mistaken the finger for the moon. So you use the word God so I mean, I'm with them on that, and I can communicate with Christians at a basic emotional and spiritual level without us ever running into trouble, and using their words and using some of their ideas. So in that sense, there are people who are perfectly fine with just accepting their version of reality, as being ordained by this God, and that's fine. The only place it's not fine is when you get assholes like Smokey Saint trying to reify the whole fucking thing and ram it down your throat. What did he say here? Can you extend R right back up your A $? Sign? I don't know what the fuck that is, where it came from. What is an A $? Sign? Does that
ASS.
Oh, he's trying to say ass, but he's afraid to write it? I don't know what the fuck is.
Well,
it's spelled ASS, asshole.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, to me, and I don't mean to, I don't mean to be too critical of you, but to me, when we insult Christians for their Christian beliefs, to me, I'll tell you how I feel like, and you might feel justified, and that's fine. But it feels like, like if I were to not like some woman because she's an asshole, right, and then kind of poke at her woman traits, like you're such a woman, you're such a. I mean, it seems like what I actually have a problem with, right, when it comes to Christians that
Well,
are
yeah, really.
assholes, is the
Yeah.
asshole part, not the Christian part, right? So when
Yeah.
I say, "Oh yeah, go
That's
back to your
fair.
stupid sky daddy," I think that's just a misplaced sentiment, right? I think, but it's effective, right? It's effective because it really it's a good way of offending a Christian, right? I think it's just the same way you really, I mean, I know how to offend, all sorts of minorities and groups and religious, communities and even nationalities, right? By just poking fun at those kinds of traits rather than what I actually have a problem with, right?
Yeah.
This
Well,
is why.
you offended me last night when you said naturalism wasn't supportable. I almost blocked you from my channel.
Oh, well, that's sad. Um,
Not
but
really.
yeah, like I just feel like it's slightly misplaced. Now there are I and I don't think you are. It doesn't seem like you are. I think you're far from it, right? Not even a speck of it. But I have a disdain for anti-theism too, right?
I'm an anti-theist.
Yeah. Okay.
I can support that, but
Well, maybe you
that's
and I mean something different. I just mean anti-theism, meaning that there's a kind of there's utility in disbelief in God or the rejection of God, right?
yeah,
And I don't agree um, in that sense, right? That there's like something about belief in God that's itself has utility or doesn't have utility. I think it's more environmental, right? So like I don't I think that people's life could be totally enhanced um, by being religious or holding to a religious community or and I don't call for the dismantling of such institutions. I'm far from it, right? I promote them if it's the case that that's how people find out that they're happier, right? My parents, my grandparents, most of my family are Christians, and I think I have pretty good arguments against Christianity, but I will never attempt to get rid of their beliefs or to argue against them because I think they're happier people for their belief, right? And maybe even better people, right? I just don't have I don't really care about the truth. I value happiness more than truth, right? I think this is something that Nietzsche was known for, right? Nietzsche was known for, look, what matters is whether it affirms life, not whether it's true or whether it, we don't want to affirm some other kind of life like heaven or the transcendental realm, right? You want to affirm this life. And so don't let truth be your new God, right? Where you affirm God and you forget about how important this life is. Um, you
right.
know, truth can be the same kind of thing, potentially, right? Like this quest for truth can put someone in a state of misery, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so in that sense, I'm not an anti-theist. That's what I mean, right?
Okay. I guess I'm a pragmatic anti-theist, and I'm an anti-theist because of neuroscience and what we now know about neuroscience, which is not being applied properly to how we educate our youth, how we understand humanity. And I think we could go a lot further. And of course, that's the silly idea that humankind is going to suddenly become this great utopian understanding, species, and we're going to stop fucking killing each other. So, I mean, it's kind of stupid and naive to think that humanity is going anywhere, that's going to progress. But if it's going to progress, if you do believe in progression of a culture or society or this species, then for God's sake, we've got to get rid of these religious beliefs and get on.
Oh, I so disagree. I think that if anything, it could be we could be in a world in which progress is made by religious belief. I think that false beliefs could
Yeah.
be the most powerful kinds of beliefs for progress, right? After all, I think that the Enlightenment and this liberalism crap is just a bunch of. There's so many issues with it philosophically, but I don't care. There's utility in false beliefs, right? This idea that everyone's equal. What the hell does that mean, right? But it's useful, right?
Yeah.
And Nietzsche was very against liberalism,
Oh,
and
as an example of a problem, we have this whole fucking group of people that we're close to, and I call it our YouTubosphere. Standing for truth.
yeah, okay. What do they call? What do you call them?
What the hell? YouTubosphere or the brain trust? The brain trust, all
Okay.
the creationists, right? So they're trying to promote this false, ridiculous science that has no support at all, called genetic entropy. And what their whole point with this shit is that mankind is heading for the fall, that, there's going to be this big fucking apocalypse, and that, we're sinners, and all this crap that they bring into society that is basically and they've come up with this ridiculous attack on genetics called genetic entropy, that they support their bullshit, horrible idea of humanity, that every generation is more mutant than the last, that their children are more mutant than they are, their grandchildren are even more mutant, and we're all heading for this fucking big cliff where Jesus is going to have to come down and save some of us and kill 99% of us, and toast us in a lake of fire. That kind of fucking bullshit. Okay. But the same thing is more insidious at a level of how we handle our educational system and how we treat and educate our children. And it has to do with a denial of neuroscience, which nobody even fucking knows about, because we are so totally unprepared as a culture and as a species to understand what we have found out about humanity and the brain. So anyway, that's why I'm an anti-theist, because of shit like
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that there are particular beliefs that are actually a detriment or contribute to ills of society that happen to be religious, and we should get rid of those. What I'm saying is something a little bit more broad, that it's not religious belief simpliciter, right, that explains the ills of society, right? It's something else, right? But I'm fine with this notion of, if it's the case that religious belief causes a detriment in society or a tension in society, then there's, by definition, that tension demands revision, right? So I'm talking about the religious belief in a very general sense, right? Some people, the Christians that don't really think about, don't think and don't have all the sort of problematic beliefs as you would say, right?
Well, yeah, those are the people that I was talking about with, they may just use God as a proxy to explain their psychology and explain how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's fine, as long as they don't go out, as long as they don't join the school board.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I have to actually, if it were the case that like belief in the apocalypse was harming people, right? In any kind of capacity, then I would think that if it meant that showing that this belief is false, that would better the world, then yeah, I will argue, right? But if it's the case that that there's some religious belief that's clearly mistaken, false, whatever, but a lot of people are benefited from it, why, other than just for the sake of entertainment, right? I don't have a problem with that kind of belief, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Okay. Well, I don't know if I think I understand you better. And we're kind of coming up on that whole fucking intentionality and mind stuff, I guess, in our next talk.
Yeah. We should talk about that.
Does anybody out there want to get in and have at each other, or do you want to keep going, Danny? You want me to invite the crowd?
I can still talk.
Yeah, we can just bracket it. We can just end our discussion and open it up to whoever wants to. I
appreciate you inviting me personally.
Yeah, I appreciate you. You're a very interesting person. I don't. It's fun to find interesting people.
Thanks.
And you know your shit.
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I'm kind of a drama queen, so.
Yeah. You talk a lot. Anyway, guys, anybody want to come in? have a talk? End this out. Immutable? Are you fucking walking? Immutable's supposed to be helping me with this channel, but you know what? He hasn't been showing up a lot.
Oh, bad.
He's bad. Yeah.
That's what my girlfriend tells me. Bad. My girlfriend is Chinese, and her English she's learned English like 5 years ago.
Okay.
It's hilarious. I love all of her. My girlfriend is Chinese, and
somebody's echoing.
Like 5 years ago. Okay. It's hilarious. I love all of her. My girlfriend is Chinese.
Scott, you're echoing like crazy.
How about now?
Okay, you're better now. Okay.
That always gets me. That tricks me all the time. What happened to my avatar?
What happened to your avatar?
Yeah, it's just a face. My dog Kira is the picture I always like to show. But I'm not going to worry about that.
Somebody
I had a question for Danny. Nothing really to argue, because I feel like the guy who wants to dive into about 1,000 feet of seawater, and all I have is a snorkel, because I don't have the vocabulary or background knowledge to go much deeper than that. But Danny, first question, that avatar of yours, I've been interested in it and been trying to figure out if there's any particular meaning behind it, or if
it's the tree of Gondor, the white tree of Gondor from Lord of the Rings.
That's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's just been bugging me.
Sorry about that.
Also, the question was asked in the chat. Do you have a channel where you've like posted videos or done live streams of various discussions?
No, I don't have a channel, although there are various channels that have debates. My channel has one debate from 3 or 4 years ago when I was a Christian. I debated a guy named Ask Yourself on Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and that's
Ask Yourself?
Yeah.
Is he the vegan guy?
Yeah. I debated. Yeah. I think I did not I did not really know what I was talking about. Looking back, it's an embarrassing thing, but I'd still beat him, I think. But we were both really new to philosophy, religion, and we spoke for an hour and 30 minutes. But that's on my channel. But that's the only video I have. I think I might eventually do a channel. But the thing is that like, it's some work. I have a grad student and I have work, so I might do that stuff in the summer. So.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like you're into the Socratic method. Is that a true statement, or are you just
generally speaking, it depends on most people. Most debates is very effective. If you know how to ask good questions, you have there's a lot of you can expose a lot, but sometimes I very rarely I'll just give my argument for things, right?
Yeah.
And unless I have to be deliberately asked, right? Usually, otherwise I just kind of like ask a lot of questions. You're right.
Yeah, because at one point when I was listening to one of your conversations with somebody, you said something about how sometimes you piss people off or they get annoyed with you.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, and I don't know which one it was from, way back when I was reading Plato. And of course, it was the conversations and dialogues of Socrates. It just sounded to me like a lot of the people in the city would get really snarky with Socrates.
Yeah. That is kind of. There might be a parallel. I mean, it's kind of a flattering thing to compare myself to Socrates, but.
Yeah, but I don't want to give you too much of a big head or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah, because I've noticed, like, when you've come on to a discussion and it's gone deep, me getting annoyed. In fact, that one time I typed Rosebud in the thing because I was just like, oh my God, this is killing me. So I'm thinking the annoyance comes from making people think in a different way than maybe they want to.
Well, yeah.
And also thinking that you're full of shit, because I know there's people out there that do, and that creates animosity too.
Yeah, it's hard to blame them, but the point is that even with myself, like, we all have our assumptions about how the world operates, and philosophers challenge those assumptions routinely, right? Not just about their within their specific domain, right? But like scientists are very critical of themselves, but only within the context of science. But we're critical of everything. We criticize all sorts of subjects, right? Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of I'm aware of a lot of the sort of presuppositions that people have, and so challenging those are uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. especially when you can see yourself being taken down a process, and rather than say I'm getting into territory I haven't thought about, you feel like somebody's leading you, and it kind of takes away a feeling of agency or something.
I think I remember the first time I was challenged philosophically by an opponent on Discord, and within 10 minutes, after really trying to understand what he was saying, I said, "I don't know anything about this. You're gonna have to give me time." Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are reluctant to do that. Some, like I feel like I do it all the time, right? There are people that are way more well-read than I am, way more smart than I, whatever that means, way more smart. And then when they give me an objection, the easiest thing to do is just say, I need to think about it. And people just, I don't know, I guess like we live in a culture where that's just like looked down upon.
Have you noticed this fucking unholy alliance? George Bond standing for truth, Raw Matt, and Kent Hovind.
I only know SFT and Kent Hovind.
Oh my God,
George
Bond and Raw Matt are even worse.
Are they? Are you serious?
Well, Raw Matt is worse. George Bond is he's just dangerous. But yeah, these guys together. Oh my God, this is an unholy alliance. Maybe the apocalypse is nigh.
Have you been watching this live or
no? I just spotted it now.
I was over at it listening to it.
Yeah.
It was, if you've seen one Kent Hovind talk,
I know.
And they kept asking him the most redundant, pointless questions, things that they've addressed to me that I've answered, but my answer made sense. Obviously, it doesn't support the narrative,
He reminds me of a monkey madly whacking off with his platitudes.
Yeah, it's it'd be sad if it wasn't so influential. So many.
I know, and Raw Matt, man, he is the pseudoscience. He is. Oh God, that guy.
Is he like a breatharian Baptist or something?
I don't know what the fuck he is. He's a fruitarian, something or another. He's like a fruitarian, but he makes mistakes that are just unbelievable in presenting papers or scientific information, and everybody's just applauding him like he's some kind of genius. And it's just amazing some of the shit he does. People have called him out on a few things, and he doesn't even care if you call him out on it. He just fucking rolls on. He just rolls on.
I have yet to have a single interaction with Raw Matt, but everyone talks about him like he's some,
he will not interact out of his comfortable playpen with SFT and stuff. He is very reluctant, I think, to debate or take anybody. He has done debates, but I think he really backed out. He's an odd case of really aggressive when he's alone, but very, very shy when he encounters one of us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, can I say something real quick, Speed?
Dr. Rahm, yeah.
I would like to address Otangelo. Otangelo, if you're going to preach, why don't you answer my question about what you mean by improving when it concerns the human genome?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a ridiculous concept. So please clarify for me.
Yeah, I was going to call him out on that. Where the hell did he say that? Do you think the human genome is improving?
Yeah. I don't know what that means. That makes no sense because there has to be, selection pressure and other things. So improving for what? Yeah, exactly. It's a kind of a abstract thought when you don't explain it.
Well, if I developed some sort of fucking Donald Trump filter where I never saw anything from Donald Trump again, it was like a genetic modification of my basically primary visual cortex where I couldn't see Trump anymore. That would be an improvement.
That would be. That's an improvement. If you're like walking down the Magic Mile in Chicago,
right?
And you look at that building, you don't see the word Trump.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
But humans would be making that judgment that it's an improvement. And
no, Otangelo, you did not answer the question. I'm sorry, Speed.
Oh, is he trying?
Please define what you mean by improving in the context of the human genome. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, what would an improvement be like? And who the fuck's making that judgment that it's an improvement? The raccoon?
Are you just counting A's and T's and G's, or what does it mean?
Yeah. I don't know what the metric would be on improvement. And they always think
evolution, yes, the concept. No, what do you mean by improving? Or if you've already said it, I don't know. I don't see it up there, but that would be very helpful.
How do you know the place is made up? Yeah, I don't know what he hasn't offered us a metric for improvement in genomes. They just cannot get it out of their head that any change in the genome is simply a change. There's no up and down direction. I mean, you can measure something like you could say fitness, right? And you could come up with a metric and say, okay, but if humans suddenly started having 20 children each, every fucking one of us, that wouldn't necessarily be an improvement.
Well, not unless there was some other
right
situation, like the explosion of a nuclear reactor that killed 99% of offspring. Then that would be
all of us. Yeah,
it's all about context.
Yeah. So Otangelo, has he come up with anything? No, he's not telling us what an improvement is.
Yeah,
what it means to be improving.
I'm just surprised that he spends so much time here.
I know he likes us. He loves us. We love him too. We love our Otangelo.
I feel like remember those cartoons with Wile E. Coyote? Not Wile E. Coyote. The two shepherd dogs.
Which one?
And the two shepherd dog. No, it's Wile E. Coyote and the shepherd dog, and they would clock in every morning and then go at it all day long and then clock out, and they were just buds after work. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, so more complex to use an improvement? Complex genomes frequently fuck species. I mean, that's one way they can die. Overcomplicating the matter. Probably the most successful organisms are still prokaryotes out there in the ocean.
I don't think I've encountered the term Pelagibacter ubique.
Oh, it's probably a species name, and I'm not familiar with it. But we'll check it out.
Okay.
That's what we do here.
Is the human genome not more complex than so complexity means improvement? That's not true either.
Yeah, that's what he's offering, I guess.
Okay, well,
so
to me.
Okay, it's significantly known to be one of the smallest and simplest self-replicating living cells. Okay, I'd heard another one was, what the fuck was it? Yeah, I'll go with that. So, yeah, so these guys are probably a lot better off than we are.
So a snowflake is more improved than
water.
A human genome because it's more complex.
More improved than a drop of water.
Yeah, it needs to. I think there needs more expansion.
Tell that to a fucking Minnesotan.
Yeah. No, I think we got down to like 37 degrees the other day, and we were all complaining.
Fahrenheit. It got up to 37 today, and we were fucking excited. We were really excited. It's like we broke out the grill and, fucking toasted some steaks and sat out there in a lawn chair. Yeah. Balmy. Midnight's here. Yeah, so far Otangelo has failed to explain the improvement in genome stills. So Pelagibacter ubique is considered one of the simplest organisms.
Okay.
I'm surprised I didn't recognize that name. I don't know.
I thought he just had shifted his hands over on the keyboard and just typed something. So I'm glad that's a real thing. But to me, yeah, more complex, whatever that means, doesn't necessarily define improvement over the human genome.
Yeah.
So if you take away a couple of amino acids, does that mean that we're degrading?
Yes, according to them.
I guess so. Well, even if a couple of amino acids are added by a duplication, they think that's degrading. We're just fucked no matter what we do. We're just because of the fall.
Yeah.
Because God is what did he do? He I guess he created organisms that can mutate. And prior to eating the apple or whatever the fuck they ate, Before that, there was no genetic mutation. There was just perfection. But oddly enough, this perfection created heterozygosity, almost as if God planned for us to fall. I don't get it. I don't know. Doing theistic genetics blows my mind. I don't know. I try every now and then to listen to Standing for Truth.
Genetics. What an oxymoron.
Theistic genetics, yeah. Well, that's what Standing for Truth does all the time. Him and Rob Mapp. Yep, we love our Otangelo. Yin sends him the love. Yeah, it's not fucking personal. Everybody should remember that. Well, sometimes I have judgment for some people in the YouTube sphere where it gets a little personal because they made it personal, you know. I don't know. But Smokey Saint stopped in. That was exciting. And I didn't block him.
Wait,
Well, I barely saw him.
Did he stop in the stream itself or just the chat?
He just made one comment that I pulled R1 out of my ass or something like that. I heard his argument against naturalism in a debate, and I wasn't incredibly impressed with it. If you're interested, Danny, I could send you a link to the transcript for his debate where he expressed.
I guess he debated against naturalism.
Where Otangelo or not Otangelo, but Smokey Saint was attacking naturalism.
What was? Do you remember what the argument was?
Not exactly. He had a debate with David Neff, and I have the transcript somewhere.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
You know what I thought of earlier, Speed? I was going to mention this, is that it seems to me like Danny would be really good in a situation where, like, he talks to a highly studied philosopher who maybe is in a different camp than him, with you moderating, or maybe
or somebody like that.
Yeah, him moderating between a couple other people in a dialogue, not a formal debate, unless that's what people want.
Yeah, I don't mind just sitting and listening to you guys go at each other. That'd be, if we find anybody, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'd be down. I'd be down if you find anyone. I don't really care who it is.
Yeah.
But in terms of, even if we agree on everything, there's always something to talk about.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the document. Let's see here. Code argument, Android immutable. Oh, shit. Give me a minute here. You guys talk about something. Oh no. Otangelo has another comment. It's so exciting. If it's real, would you not like to know and be warned? It's for your good. You have still time to avoid the ending. The ending is coming.
Also, Otangelo, since you've got the energy to preach, please tell us your definition of improvement. You're just actually asking us questions and saying, isn't that improvement? But you haven't really defined it. And I bet those little parableeky, obliques, or whatever, those small organisms are pretty pissed at you right now for saying that they're not an improvement over us.
Right.
So you're being kind of speciesist, I think is the term.
Hi,
So
Bug.
can we go back to what you mean by improvement and leave the hell and brimstone and fire out of it for a while?
No. Because people like Otangelo, they think they're doing something. They think they're doing something good by warning people that they're going to hell. You gotta believe. Otherwise, you go to hell. We're doing this for your own good. How many atrocities have been committed throughout history for people's own good? Yeah, go to hell.
Yeah, and I've had hell preached to me, and I've actually preached hell to people. So you don't need to worry about whether or not we've got the message. I think most of us have got the message, and that's why we're where we are.
Oh my. Oh, what do we have here? Got to get rid of Otangelo's quote.
That's not very nice.
Well, no. I mean, let's see. The boogeyman. Afraid of the boogeyman. Yeah, what the fuck? I don't know. I couldn't living my life thinking that something is like constant. I mean, there was a reason why I ran away from home when I was like 16, 17 years old, because living my life with this constant person fucking with me and observing me and telling me what to do just got to be too much.
I mean,
And
one could say it's almost paranoia.
that's Christianity to me. But anyway, let's see. Smokey has these arguments. Fallaciousness of the justification for methodological naturalism. Naturalism of the gaps. Okay. So he pushes back on our he called it naturalism of the gaps, and I forget.
Wait, methodological naturalism and naturalism are two different things.
I know.
Yeah, because I'm not going to make serious. I mean, to me, what methodological naturalism assumes is there's no intentional explanations with respect to our. So, yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that.
Yeah, but it's just a way to observe data, though. I mean, methodological naturalism is just how we look at things, how we decide to look at this, but going into it. That's what it's. Yeah, it's not necessarily a worldview. It's a methodology.
And he has the underdetermination sequence.
Okay, underdetermination, I think, is a problem, but it doesn't really fit. And I wonder how you.
Okay, and point number 4, actually, I think this is point number 4. Any naturalistic mechanism can easily be justifiably accounted for in theism. You can make up a story, and that's what I meant by M1 outside of my R1, R2.
Yeah.
Basically metaphysics, or what I call 7th grade metaphysics, where you can make up a story that you can come up with a just so story to explain anything.
Right.
And that's his argument against naturalism.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think it's going to be very difficult arguing that point.
Isn't it the invisible dragon that lives in your garage or whatever? I mean, that's
basically going to be the issue. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I did not see you there. I was too busy reading the
complexity.
Chat.
Yeah, I've never really understood the relevance of complexity.
Man, naturalism offers nothing of social value. Sorry.
Well, I don't think there can be value on naturalism, but I don't think his argument is that sophisticated.
Well, to me, here's a thing of value that naturalism does offer. The theism has said, let's kill gay people. They're I can't remember the word. Their offspring kind of tries to kill gay people, and then we look at nature and say, hey, homosexuality is common in the natural world. Maybe we should ease up off of those gay people and treat them fairly. And naturalism therefore contributes to society, but not in a way that theists think it should.
Well, God is love.
But how's that just not the rejection of Christianity as having a utility? What does that have to do with naturalism?
Yeah. Because, well, actually, I think underlying that is the idea that it's not natural. That was the big argument back in the 60s and 70s when people didn't know as much about science and biology. It was that it wasn't. So, yeah, you're right.
The appeal to nature fallacy, I think that's.
Yeah. There's a natural fallacy.
Christ is your lottery. You reject the jackpot.
That's kind of slick. You gotta admit.
What is this? What he just said before about love? Where does that love come from? Because the concept of love that we know it is a chemical reaction in your brain.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm a dualist, so I don't think that makes any sense. But
fucking dualist.
So you're a dualist?
I think of love as a human construct to describe a chemical reaction in the brain. Yeah, that's my opinion. But yeah, I'm a naturalist.
Even if there is a soul, the body and soul are intrinsically linked. Okay, so the body affects the soul. So therefore, love is still chemical. So checkmate.
Well, the soul is. I mean, he does that thing to Leo too, right? Like he says. Is that one of those things? Where he was memeing. Okay.
Let me see.
Well, my gut feeling is that Otangelo is using the preaching to avoid defining the word improving in the context of the human genome. it's a kind of passive aggressive thing that I notice Christians sometimes do, is quote scripture and say "bless your heart" whenever
When you-
there's something they don't want to deal with.
When you say improving to what metric though? Because the success of your genome is dependent on external factors. So what's best in one environment or in one situation might not be best for long term.
We know what he's actually talking about, right? In his worldview, humans are the best. So improving to be improving the human.
We were the best, though. I believe he believes like genetic entropy, like the word degrading.
Okay, I'll take my leave, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Danny.
Hey, Danny.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks, Danny.
Did you say you're leaving?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave.
Oh, okay. I shared that transcript to you, and it has all the chat, and it has a link to the original discussion.
I
So.
probably won't find a sound argument, but I'll look at it.
Danny, is
Yeah,
that
well,
is that like the tree of Gondor on your?
Yes. Yeah, the white tree.
Just to let you know, we're doing a stream this coming Saturday about the giant spider archetype in fiction. So if you wanted to check that out, we're going to be
Where is
talking about
this?
it on my channel.
Okay, about I have arachnophobia, but I could talk about it. So
Yeah.
That's
So we're going to discuss that too. We're going to
Okay,
discuss.
Danny, for your channel.
Yeah,
Danny,
what's
for
your
your
channel?
channel.
What's your channel?
Yeah, for your channel, you need to record yourself like laying in a bed full of spiders to get over your arachnophobia.
I don't know.
Yeah,
You would
fear
get a
factor,
lot of views.
man.
What's the name of your channel? Is it?
Here, I'll drop the link
Thank
in
you.
there. It's a
Okay.
brain bug hive, but
Appreciate it. I gotta go. Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye. So
He left before the link was dropped.
you got a wrench, don't you, Bug?
yeah, I got it. I just popped it out there. As long as it's still letting me post links. Last time I tried to post something in one of your chats, it wouldn't come up.
Really?
Yeah, when Erica was having problems getting that link to post, I tried to, and she couldn't get it to go, so I tried to do it, and it wouldn't do it for her.
Oh, maybe for some reason you don't have a wrench.
I do have a wrench now. I can see it. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you
wrenched.
can, but I'm
No trouble.
Oh, that's the weather report. So where is?
That'd be genetic negentropy.
Okay, I see it.
That's just to answer Otangelo's question out there. The opposite of genetic entropy would be genetic negentropy, which would be that the cell is growing and changing, or the cells are growing and changing. Anyway, Leo, what's up?
Hey, man.
Just watching closely.
Closely, yes.
Georgia.
Brian, brain bug.
What's up?
Nothing much. I was wondering who the hell you were, but now I see the name.
Call him Bug.
Most
Let's
people
go,
call me
Bug.
Bug
Yo.
or Brian.
I could call you Brain, but I call you Bug. I don't know. And I affectionately call Otangelo Jello, but he doesn't like it.
Tangelo.
I like calling him Jello.
I liked Odie.
Yeah, that's what I call him. Odie.
One reason is I really get tired of typing Otangelo, and I find myself typing it a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what. On my phone, if I start typing OT, it automatically spells out Otangelo.
Really? Yeah.
It does.
Uh,
So you're always on my mind, Odie.
You've trained it. Odie. That's a good one. I like that.
Odie. What the fuck,
Yeah.
you stupid fuck.
I'm pretty
So,
burnt
did
out.
you and Danny ever actually talk about naturalism?
Yeah, I think we did. I kind of got an idea that he agrees with me right up to the point of where you bring the mind into it, and that's where we're gonna.
He's never explained why he's a dualist or what he thinks the other aspect of the mind is.
That's the next.
Did you hear what I
That is the
said?
next conversation. So
Leo,
One thing
did
I
you hear
forgot
what
to
I
ask him was, he said something about having students.
He's
Is
from-
he-
Yeah.
I think he said he's a high school teacher.
he's a teacher.
Oh
Gotcha.
boy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a high school teacher.
But no, like I said, he said he's a dualist. Well, even if we grant a soul, the body still secretes chemicals.
I could
Right.
grant dualism before I could grant there being a soul.
I mean,
So someone bring me up to speed real quick. Give me a 2-minute. What is dualism and what's the other version of it? I'm not familiar.
Dualism is there's the brain and then there's the mind, and they're two distinct.
wow, the internet hates you.
Two distinct entities,
Against
maybe.
the other, And so you essentially the mind interacts with the brain, but they're two distinct entities. And then there's physicalism, which is what the overwhelmingly vast majority of neuroscientists hold to. The people that, actually study the brain and the mind. And that is that there's just the brain, and what the brain fundamentally does gives rise to what we call the mind.
I'm
That
a
makes sense.
physicalist.
Well,
And I am a physicalist, because why the fuck would I not be?
Yeah,
and I
that's
don't
what-
know what the fuck I am, Leo.
That's what I was just saying about the love thing. It's all chemical stuff. What about you, Mike? You
He's a physicalist.
okay?
Pure hardcore physicalist. Yes.
Yeah, me too. Same page. Actually, I was trying to explain it to someone. We do this call-in show, and I just got finished with it. The first person was calling in, talking about that we know the universe had a beginning and all this stuff, and I'm like, no, dude.
We don't.
Yeah,
You just had a call-in show? You
Yeah.
said?
yeah. I'm on the Perspective. Every other Tuesday, I'm on there, but I was on there with Jenna Belk. She does.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Experience.
I debated Jenna on Modern Day Debate a while ago, last year.
What y'all debate about?
Is AA a cult?
Oh.
And we got along so well that everybody was bored with us.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they went to blood.
Were you in the positive camp?
No, AA is not a cult.
Okay.
And AA has some built-in defense mechanisms for becoming a cult, which is kind of cool. They have something called 12 traditions, and every one of them are anti-cult or preventing it from being a cult, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but she didn't really think it was a cult either. I don't think. It's just that she subscribes to a different secular thing. What the hell is it called? Smart recovery or something like that.
Well,
But I think AA is fucking fine. You just have to.
12 steps of freedom. I don't know.
Yeah.
The
you just have
problem
to-
that I have with AA is it pretty much
Mhm.
says that you can't do this on your own, and you absolutely need God to help you.
you have to have a higher power, they say. So you
Yeah.
can,
Well,
Which
if
is
you
dumb.
read it,
No, you don't.
can't you
if
just
you
be
read it
like,
wrong.
I appeal to the freaking force? Can you not do that?
Well,
What's
I think other scientific data, or at least other points of view, point out that you still need a community in order to. Actually, you need money and a community
Like fuckers.
in order to get out of addiction and addictive
Yes.
processes.
You need a supportive
Yeah,
community.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, you need a good support system. That's
Yeah,
true
right.
that's true for anything, right? That's true for learned helplessness. That's true for addiction. That's true for being a lazy fuck. Although that last one results may vary.
I gotta say though that's what is an area that the theists do have a decisive advantage in is community building.
Yeah, not
I
much of a
like
community I would want to be a part of, but yeah,
Well-
they've got it.
They have a support system though. They do.
Yeah, I mean, if you think the way that they do, but if you don't, then yeah, you're not a part of it.
Well, I think also
It's a community. They've got the community. It's just a very exclusive
Leo,
community.
that's just tribalism in general. That happens. everywhere.
There's toxic groups in every community, though. I give them credit where it's due. They not all of them, and there's some of them are better than others. But as far as supporting, like their members, if someone's down and out, someone has trouble, as long as you're a member of that community, they'll freaking help you out. They'll pay your medical bills or whatever.
I know. I heard one guy talking about how there's your usual mouse environment where they get a mouse addicted to a drug or something, and then they have kind of a Disneyland kind of environment created for a bunch of rats, get them addicted, and just because they have a great environment and they're not left alone in a cage or whatever, they don't even want the addictive substances. And I think that speaks to like what our society needs, which is wider or less isolation, because we are an isolated nation right now. In terms of most
blame the
people
virus.
can only name one or two friends that they could really depend on to feed their dogs or something like that.
Well,
Can I real quick?
I think that's so divided. Go ahead.
Can I real quick
Depression-
address this that
Go
they're
ahead.
saying here because there's some entropy questions I just
Oh,
wanted to.
Jesus.
Okay, so for any part of a closed system to be experiencing negentropy, which is what Otangelo was asking for, the opposite of entropy. If there's a portion of the system that is experiencing negentropy, that means that the overall system would be trending towards entropy because the energy would be going into burning in that system. So all negentropy is going to result in entropy, and entropy can't happen without negentropy. So they work hand in hand there. So
Is that
that's
like a
why.
yin and yang
That's
thing?
why. I'm sorry.
Is that like a yin and yang thing?
Yeah. Well.
yeah, entropy is the state of work increasingly being used and being less available for work. Negentropy is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's the negative of entropy.
And neither one of them can function without the other one. So
Yes.
I mean, there can't be if entropy. There's no entropy happening if the energy isn't being burned, which is negentropy, which is like our solar system. That's why
Yes.
the area that we live in the universe experiences negentropy because we got a sun burning here. We got energy being dispersed into the universe. And that's where we get our energy from. That's why the Earth is experiencing negentropy. That's why the argument against evolution based on entropy is total bullshit because the Earth's not in a state of entropy.
So there are opposites.
Right.
Oh shit.
So Orgay 343, is that how we talk to you? Is that what we call you?
Yeah, sure. What's up? That works.
You're a geology person, right?
Yeah, I got a master's in geophysics.
Well, cool. We need to focus on the geologies at some point.
Hey, Matt Powell wants to debate me about geology.
Really?
That's
That'd be a waste
because
of time.
he messaged me and said that he wanted to debate me because I reviewed his video, and I said, okay, we can talk about the whether the flood model or the evolutionary model better explains the diversity of life on the planet. He comes back at me. He's like, I don't know if my audience can handle a lot of genetics talk. How about we just talk about geology and the geology of the Grand Canyon instead? I'm like, dude, I don't do geology.
What?
I do.
They always want to talk about the Grand Canyon.
They want to talk about
Yeah.
whatever I wouldn't have it because they know that I know phylogeny and ecology and all that because I mean that's what I do on my channel. So they don't want to talk to me about that. They want to talk to me
Right.
about something that I don't know. So I'm saying that me and Ogre do the debate and he can bring fucking Raw Matt or somebody
Can't hold
into.
What the fuck what the fuck does the Grand Canyon have to do with anything?
Well, because
Because they couldn't have formed naturally. It had to be.
Except that it could have. I don't know
They've
why.
done a lot of
they
work.
don't literally know how it's
So
formed.
the big thing you hear about the Grand Canyon is the Coconino sandstones.
yeah,
That's the thing they always bring up because creationists think the Coconino sandstones are found throughout the Western North America.
right.
And they say that could only be as extensive as it is because of a flood, although only creationists argue that the Coconino sandstones are found that big.
The thing about the Coconino sandstones too is that that whole layer there is it. They want to say because it's divided and you can see the layers that it's supposed to represent millions of years. That's still just a few hundred years of sandstone, just different deposits of sand that were fossilized or mineralized.
Compacted, yeah.
Yeah.
Cemented, yeah.
And just a few hundred years. And so yeah, there's all those different colors. That's not millions of years right in that layer. That's hundreds of years. Am I right? You're the geologist. I'm not trying to.
Well, sandstone ain't my thing, but my understanding is sandstone is going to accumulate over time, and creationists always try to bring up like this number is how fast XYZ deposits. It doesn't work that way, right? Different environments are going to work at different speeds at different times. It's dumb to think that a lake's not going to be the exact same thing 100% of the time throughout its existence. A storm comes in, big slosh of water comes down, deposits a lot more at any particular moment. It's variable. The world is variable. It's not static.
Yeah,
So-
Nephilim doesn't understand how the how it can be stratified, like different colors, is what he likes to point out.
Dude,
Yeah.
Nephilim doesn't understand. He understands literally nothing about
Well,
science.
fuck, he doesn't understand what is it called, rheology, the elasticity of rocks. You know, when they're like, he thinks they would crack.
Hey,
Yeah.
so why
And of
putting
course they
on
do. You know, if
Yeah, the stress and strain, deformation,
Right.
elastic, ductile. Yeah.
yeah.
Speed,
but-
why putting on the Antangelo's last message?
He already
Brain,
did.
I have a chat with you, or
No,
Or
the one
Megan-
about the genome is devolving.
No, it's not.
no, it's not devolving.
He's
It's
still
fucking-
trying to avoid what he means by improving in the context of the human genome.
Yeah, what do you mean by devolving?
Yeah, that's what I
would
was
that
going to
mean?
ask. What would we look for something to demonstrate that something's devolving?
Devolving, right?
Like an amoeba would be insulted to say that we're an improvement over them, because
Yeah.
that makes
Well,
improving. It's kind of biased towards your own species, isn't it?
Everything has evolved to the same point. All of us, all species and life forms and organisms are all. None of us are more evolved than the other, or none of.
So, brain bug.
Yeah.
On that point, let's take out that as a hypothetical. Humanity as it is now. There was a point in our ancestry when our species was noticeably different, right?
right.
So, would it be fair to say that we have improved on that trajectory? Would that be a fair statement or not?
No, I don't think improvement would be.
We're adapted. Mainly, it's our brain, the adaptation of our brain that allowed us to move into environments that we formerly wouldn't have been able to live in.
Okay.
So,
Because like the world hasn't changed that much in our evolutionary time spectrum, so we kind of got better at living where we're living currently than we were 400,000 years ago.
yeah,
Could
we got
Could you
good at
argue
living
that's
everywhere.
improvement or not?
Let me take a crack at this. Okay, if I drove by a school playground and in my van, and all the kids were out
I
there.
don't like where this is going.
Yeah,
Blacked out windows, yeah.
Okay, all the kids were out there and they had walkers, and instead of being on slides and doing, you know, gymnastics and all the shit that kids do, if they were in walkers and they were all wrinkly, and then I'd say, oh well, maybe we're devolving. But you don't see that. Fucking human beings are healthy, you know, particularly young humans are fucking healthy, and I don't see where they get
the
this.
ones with genetic mutations or not.
And so I mean, so what is he what are you talking about devolving? Give us an example of what would be devolution, Otangelo. And
I was just trying to I was just trying to add something to the conversation besides calling Otangelo stupid. So
No, yeah, I liked what you were saying, because there's a point to where you say what body type is successful. Because like, look at like island species, like all the ones that were wiped out as soon as we arrived there, because
dodos and stuff.
because they weren't prepared to compete with a voracious, mass-producing omnivore that tears down the forest and all this crap. And our animals that we bring to, which a lot of them we made, even the black rat we made. Humanity made that species.
Really?
Most species of, like almost every species of dogs, humans made.
Yeah. So, and we bring all these island populations, and the endemic population's not prepared to deal with that, and we just devastated.
Well, he answered our question. He gave us a link.
No, he didn't. He didn't answer it because he never
He
does.
gave us a
You'll
link.
ask him a question, and then he'll just post to his blog instead of making his own argument. And my hypothesis on that is that it's because he doesn't know enough to make his own argument, because whatever's on his blog, he just copy and pasted, cherry-picked, quote-mined things from places without really reading them and understanding them at a level that which he can present his own argument in his own words. So he just sort of defaults to his blog rather than actually explaining it himself, because he doesn't know how.
Give us an example of devolving.
I know there's a character limit on how much you can put in there, but there's enough space for you to give us an outline, like an abstract of your position.
Or he can
An
come in
example
and
for
explain it to
human.
us.
Because it's all started with the human genome. So an example of humans improving.
Or humans devolving, one or the other.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hey, Ogre, is there going to be any more lizard man videos?
Oh my God, he referenced John Sanford, the religious nutcake.
I finished off that, but I still got some more other craziness in the pipeline. So
I started watching your videos like 4 years ago or something like that.
I believe it.
Yeah. Back when I was first starting to get into the the pseudoscience debunking videos, you were one of the first people I started watching.
And now you got more subs than me. Look at me. Giants. There you go.
I have like 5 bugs though. So.
I did need to ask you a question, Brian. How are you feeling?
Feeling?
Yeah, how are you feeling? How is your brain feeling? Because I know you watched my debate with Singenis. Are you okay? Do you need assistance? Do you need an adult?
That was fun. He's very assertive though. He says he's your teacher. He's like, so look, this is the way this works, and this is the way that works. So you can infer that the universe circles around the Earth.
Son Genis was horrible. That was.
I know it might sound a bit conceited, but after the first roughly 20 minutes of that debate, I feel like it was pretty much just me bullying him the entire time.
Well, he wanted to scoff at you saying, I don't know enough about that research or that paper that to form an argument against. He's like, well, maybe you're just not prepared for this debate then. Or maybe you didn't, or no, what would you say? You didn't come, maybe you just didn't come prepared or whatever. It's like, I'd never heard of any, I know you're a lot more versed in that physics stuff than I am, but I'd never heard of any of the stuff he cited.
Most people haven't. See, that's what creationists do it, the flat earthers do it, geocentrists do it. They look for like really, really technical, remote areas of the field that most lay people haven't heard of to cite it so that they can use it as a way of browbeating their opponents by just saying, oh, you haven't heard of this? Well, ha, 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 it proves you wrong. And that it literally never does. And then they get into a discussion.
Like, argument from science, I think, isn't that one that they hate when we bring up that scientists say this? But then they always have that one random scientific article that proves their
like
point.
1986.
Yeah, exactly. It's
they hate it when you cite scientists, like actual researchers in the field, when it shows that they're wrong. But then they'll cherry pick scientists to show that they're right.
There's got to be a name for that. I can't.
Yeah,
they'll quote them from Scientific America or National Geographic. They'll quote something they said in an interview and be like, "This is what they say," and it's like that's pop science.
Like Otangelo's done that with me with like people like Max Planck and those in quantum mechanics. And then when I actually go to explain what it is, that must be John. When I go to explain what it is, it's like, yeah, dude, you don't know enough about the subject to know that they're speaking in a very, very simplistic way, because they understand that the audience that's going to be reading or hearing this doesn't have the technical knowledge understand this at a much more advanced level.
I do got to say, I appreciate that Otangelo usually, if he's not linking his blog, he links some kind of peer review research.
Yeah, but it literally never says what he says that it does.
Yeah. You get that with lots of these guys. Like, well, I don't agree. The conclusion of the research doesn't I don't agree with, but I cite this research because it has this data point in there.
Or the other thing that they'll do is they'll cite some like famous scientist like Einstein or Max Planck or Newton on what that person personally believed, which is no relation to their scientific research, and then claim that somehow has a bearing on the scientific research.
Joel does that all the time.
Max Planck, the fact that he believed in a god does not, and the fact that he thought quantum mechanics pointed to one doesn't mean that that's actually the case. That just means that that's his personal opinion. The vast majority of modern day theoretical physicists, even ones that do believe in God, would not agree with.
Max Planck believed in a god?
Yes, I do believe so.
Okay, I'm a Christian again.
I don't I don't know.
That's how that works.
Like Christian God or more deistic or what have you, but
Leo, I have to say, I am very pissed off at you for calling me John.
Angelo's here. The real.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I think that the reason that you have such terrible takes, Leo, is because your brain is suffering from entropy.
It probably is, especially after that fucking Syngenis debate. My God.
Next time I see you, I'm going to shoot you with my P-32 space modulator.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to come in now. But it is what it is. They've been running from us for a while.
Epistasis depended on the
Like the other night with John Maddox was in the chat. Me, Immutable, Speed, Dan, I want to say Midnight might have been here. We're all like, John, come on in. The fire's nice and warm.
John's one of the
Take
ones
a
that
seat.
I mean, Leo, have you not paid attention to my body type? I do not run very often.
Maddox is one of the ones that'll disagree with the conclusion of the paper he's citing, but
You just got debunked.
Yeah.
Maddox is the person who refuses to interact or engage with people who intimidate him, like Dr. Dan or myself or Speed or Immutable.
What about Erica? Doesn't he like dive whenever
No,
Erica?
he will, but he just and you know when he's intimidated by somebody because he just overtalks them, he talks down to them, he hurls insults at them, tries to do whatever he can to
He
silence
sets up a GoFundMe to pay for debating them.
That's why he won't come on other channels. He does not want to be in a position where he doesn't have the power to control the discussion.
Yeah, I tried to get him to come on Math Picks channel and talk to me, and he wouldn't. He said, "If we're going to talk, it's going to be on his channel." So I was like, "No."
Like fucking Otangelo. One of the things in 2005, geneticist John Sanford. Boy, that's really timely fucking reference there, Otangelo.
One thing I really love about these guys is that when you ask them, if say, are you willing to admit that the position you hold to goes against the vast majority of the professionals, like it goes against the consensus of professionals in that field, they will dance around that question until the fucking day is dark.
Can I address this Sanford thing here? Because the accumulation of mutations, yeah, it's detrimental if the individuals with the bad mutations are allowed to breed. Natural selection weeds those out so that it keeps the number of these adverse mutations.
Well, Brian, look, there's only one problem with that argument.
Mm-hmm.
Otangelo's existence disproves.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but it's like what Ogre was talking about earlier. Humans are so well adapted to survive in any environment that we keep our individuals with genetic defects around so that they continue to propagate and keep their genes in the gene pool. With humans, that's why, like domestic dog, that's why a pug looks like a smash-faced pig now. They didn't always look like that. That's what happens when too many mutations accumulate in the gene pool. But natural selection weeds those out, so it keeps those levels low enough that we're not experiencing that. So, yeah, there is some truth to that there are more individuals now that are alive and will live a full life with genetic defects that would have killed them in a natural situation of humans. That's true, but there's also more humans than there's ever been and it's only growing larger. So yeah, sorry. Rant over.
This is well, no, I'm glad you stopped before it started to sound like a eugenics speech.
No, yeah, I'm not for eugenics.
That joke fell to the floor. Holy shit!
This channel does not.
Be honest.
Support.
When I hear creation, well, I'm going to call them genome mythologists because it's not science. When our creationist friends start talking about genomes and how the human genome it's falling apart, it's degrading, to me that sounds like a backdoor into the kind of white supremacist, this kind of bullshit that went on in the early 20th century.
Yeah, who's the closest to that peak human condition?
Exactly.
Right?
Some people are more degraded than others, so we need to select for intervene to select for the best genetic pool, which just I hate to be alarmist, and I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracist, but I worry about that because that actually went on in history.
Right.
Yeah, isn't this the same kind of shit that they're promoting, where they're talking about improving genomes and devolving genomes?
Like a
Aren't they
master
sort of
race.
siding into eugenics? I mean, they're making a value judgment about what would be an improvement, and that kind of thinking is basically what.
To do a fair play on that point. I don't think they're saying that some people are more devolved than others. I think they're saying that everyone
Well,
is
they
kind
have
of,
to be, because Standing for Truth will say that his children are more mutant than he is.
Yeah, like generationally, not like eugenics race-wise thing. The Germans are
not race-wise, but I mean generationally.
Well, you're trying to connect to eugenics.
No, but,
I think
but
that's a
no.
stretch.
Eugenics is the idea that we should breed for a better and better species.
I mean, it's
right?
not just, wait a minute. It's not just the idea that we breed for a better and better species. It's that eugenics was actually also about actively eradicating
right.
bad parts of the gene pool.
In
I
other
mean,
words,
eugenics.
People, who had a low IQ and things like that.
Yeah, eugenics was literally artificial selection, but let's do it to our fellow humans.
Yeah, it was like what we do to breed dogs, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is,
we shouldn't let black people breed at all.
Holy fuck!
I think they're kind of thinking that evolution has some direction and that we're devolving. Basically, entails that kind of bullshit.
Well, that's
that we can engineer humans.
There's some countries where, like if they find, I forget, somebody mentioned this. As a matter of fact, I think it might have been a Christian, that some totalitarian country or whatever, if your fetus is tested and found to have some, Down syndrome or something like that, that they suggest or make you abort the baby or something.
Actually, is that a totalitarian country, or is that something like fuck? I don't want to throw out any names, but I think I heard that recently.
Yeah,
they have. They're basically passing laws, and I don't know. I don't know about that.
If you don't mind me changing the subject, I had a question for Leo and Brainbug. A biology question.
We are not gay lovers. Why does everybody keep asking?
Yeah, I don't believe you on that. I think you're lying right now. I'm finishing up.
Hey, Leo, I think you're giving yourself too much credit if you think you could pull Brian.
Yeah, no, that's way too much credit.
He's trying to ask a question. Let's
I just want to know if you guys' opinion. I'm finishing up The Thread of Life. It's a book about genetics and stuff like that. And they bring up John Caron's work in the late 80s where he had microorganisms choosing mutations. Do you know anything about that at all? Is that like still ongoing, or is that like a one-shot?
First of all, what is the book again?
The Thread of Life.
Yeah, Speed probably has the book.
Oh, The Thread of Life. Okay.
Yeah, it's by Susan Aldridge. It's my bathroom reader, and I never heard the idea before of choosing mutation, but apparently in the 80s, this guy did some work where he put microorganisms with food that was deficient in a certain nutrient, and then better than chance, mutations arrived to allow those microorganisms to eat that food without the specific nutrient. Inferring that.
I wonder if this maybe related to the
clarification. Though I was trying to get into ask is, did you say that was your bathroom reader?
Yeah, that's why I read when I'm pooping.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to check. I wasn't sure if I'd heard that.
I always have a bathtub reader that I read while I'm taking a bath.
I like to read books that don't have stories when I'm pooping because I don't want to get lost in it,
Yeah.
So
you might fall in.
Exactly. But yeah, did you guys, either of you know anything about this at all, or?
No, but do you recommend this book? I'll check it out under your recommendation.
I'm investigating right now. I'm investigating whether or not I own it.
It's not. I enjoyed it as someone who doesn't know crap about biology. It was a bit above my pay grade, but it wasn't too bad. I think it's kind of old. I don't know if they have newer iterations of it or not.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, like the E. coli experiments and the way that they mutated to process the citrate.
Yeah.
If that has anything to, if that's related at all.
I can't find it on Amazon.
Is that mentioned in the in that book at all?
It might have been. I'm almost to the end, so I'm.
Hey, I can't find it on Amazon.
It's called Thread of Life.
The Thread of Life. Yeah, let me. I'll find it and just do it in the side chat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about genetic engineering and stuff like that. All right, I threw the Amazon link in the side chat.
Thanks.
Okay.
But yeah, the end of it, because it's all about DNA and its importance to stuff.
Holy shit, the price.
Yeah, I got mine at a used bookstore.
Yeah.
How much is it, Speed?
$51.
Oh shit, that ain't nothing compared to.
Oh, 22 used from 94 cents.
There's a
Hey,
paperback for like $11 though.
Oh, is there a paperback?
Yeah, the used section.
Okay.
yeah, here's the Nature article that they're referring to. Yeah, if you guys aren't familiar with this, it might just be like a this concept might be like a one and done, like they couldn't replicate it sort of thing. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting, the idea that microorganisms could want to mutate in a certain way, and that's
Microorganisms. So I would have thought more along the lines of viruses myself, but that's where they go.
This was bacteria that they did this with.
Bacteria.
Yeah, directed mutation.
Yeah, I got the paper pulled up. I got a hard on for primary research.
Hey man, I got a master's. I know what you're talking about. Oh crap! My bookmark fell out. Shit.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I have a gift card at Amazon. Ha ha. Fucking bought a book.
It is a slightly older book, but it's it's easy enough to read while you're pooping and still be interested.
I'll take a look at it and see if we can find out if I know what you're talking about. We'll address it at some point. But
yeah, I said I'm just bringing it up because it's news to me. It was at the very end of the book, so
like
I clicked on the link for the article, and it's like rent or buy article, $8.99.
Yep.
Yeah, that's science. Did you see the subscription price for your subscription?
$199. What's that, like for 12 issues?
Yeah, it's monthly. I'm sure.
What is that for?
Nature. All of them are like that. That's something I'm so against as just a member of the community. I think we should all be able to have access to this research. I'll tell you, a lot of times, and I used to do this for ecology stuff when I was in school, is if you reach out to the authors, they'll send you a copy. So you don't necessarily have to, like this journal, like Nature, you find Nature and you see the you can either reach out to the individuals cited as the authors, or sometimes if you go down to the people that cite that article, you can reach out to them. They'll forward you a copy of it. They download it after.
I'll just steal the magazine from my dentist's office.
You could buy. Everybody should buy this book. The Rocks Were There by RJ and Jackson Lee. It's a pretty big book. It would be hard to hold in the bathtub, but they put together so much information on creationists and all the bullshit. But the rocks were there. That kind of fits you pretty well, Orge.
Is that just a luxury thing every once in a while, Speed?
What?
Taking a bath?
I do it like once a month, whether I need to or not.
I don't.
What I meant was it's not. You just don't just do baths, right?
I don't shower. I use baths because I have a whirlpool and I like to lay in there and soak up the heat and read books and play with myself.
Baths are disgusting. I don't want to sit in my own filth. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of.
Like most of the work I've done on consciousness in my brain or in my head, I've done in the bathtub by looking at water. At the faucet.
Do you shower off when you get out?
Do I what?
Do you shower off when you get out?
No, why would I do that?
Because you've been.
Because you were just sitting in your own fucking filth like a goddamn Speed stew.
Sitting in your
gross.
fill. No, I don't
Yeah,
know.
he has the whirlpool, so he was boiling in his own.
You got fucking 60 gallons of boiling hot water. I don't think there's a lot of filth involved.
Well, you would be surprised.
We're just
I
giving
don't
you
think
shit.
I would. No, I think baths are pretty adequate.
No.
I mean, I'm not, you know, you don't want to kill all the fucking, well, I guess I probably do kill the bacteria because the water is about 100. It's pretty hot.
Well, you
So-
could like get in the shower and
You take a
install
bath in a
and
motherfucking
then get
hot
in the
tub.
bathtub.
Like, you don't even use your bathtub, you just get in your hot tub.
Showers are just too fucking brutal and active. Like, you know, it's like,
No, they're
I
amazing.
mean, if I want that kind of shit, I'll jump on the treadmill.
Nothing feels as good as a scalding hot shower, man.
Exactly.
Feeling
Well,
that
yeah, I have a
creep
really
off.
nice. I have a really nice rain shower for. I will take a shower if I have to, if we're going somewhere and I have to be quick. But I have this really beautiful rain shower, and you can step out of it, and it's really cool. So
Showers are even better when you got a nice, hot, sexy, naked lady in there to just, you know.
nope, fuck that. I don't want
You always
anybody
have
in there
to
with
bring
me.
Amelia Clark into this.
Well, and in Leo's case,
I didn't say that.
in Leo's case, it works out really good because plastic dolls float.
I don't have a plastic doll. It's silicon.
John's from an older generation. That's when all they had blow up
They
dolls.
have the
were
technology
happy.
we do.
Yeah, they got those new ones now, and they don't float.
Yeah.
It all
No, they
floats
don't. They
down
say-
here. They all float down here.
You'll float.
Hey, Jorge,
Yeah.
got a question for you. Have you ever heard of Nick Zintner?
Nick Zintner.
Zintner, yeah. So, since you're into geology, he does a geology YouTube channel, and he's like a
Wait.
teacher.
Yeah, I think I do know him, actually. I think I've subscribed to him.
Yeah, he started doing his geology 101 class. Not only through the student network, but he's live streaming it on YouTube like 4 times a week now. He's doing a full quarter of geology 101.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
it
no,
is.
I've seen this dude before. Yeah,
Okay, there's a link in the chat for his channel.
He's like the
Yeah, I'm
Neil
up to him,
deGrasse Tyson of geology.
yeah. I've been following that a little bit, actually. Yeah, his going through the I-90 and stuff like that. Yeah,
He goes to the I-90. There's also a theory called Baja California, where like a whole strip of the west coast of Mexico over couple million years went north and crashed into North America up around Washington and Canada. And it's just fascinating stuff.
Who's the geologist that puts out YouTube videos all the time about Wisconsin and Michigan and what the hell's his name?
Ballman?
Who is it?
Ballman? Is there a Steve Ballman or Bowman?
Yeah, Bowman. Steve
Oh, yeah, Steve Bauman.
Bowman.
Yeah, I follow
Yeah.
him on Twitter.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
And you like this concentration or this fascination that creationists have with the Grand Canyon. It's based on the fact that they've got their just so stories just right there, but it fucking breaks down in Minnesota. Like when you look at iron ore and all that stuff, they really can't explain that.
What wouldn't break down in Minnesota? It's so damn cold all the time.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway.
true.
no, it don't hold. Doesn't pass the mustard for the Grand Canyon either. But they
Yeah, I
yell it
know.
so much that no one really wants to pay attention anymore.
But they have a lot of just those stories.
Exactly.
And it looks. I mean, it kind of fits their flood narrative, the layers and shit.
What's
But
what's their
fucking-
model for the coal layers though?
Yeah, their model for the iron ore deposits in
Their
northern
model is the
Minnesota.
same thing. The flood somehow did everything. The flood laid down
Okay.
glacial deposits. The flood laid down.
What about all the iridium that exists in a well-defined layer in Earth from
Yeah,
millions,
That's not an asteroid.
tens
That's-
of millions of years before the flood?
Yeah, that's not an asteroid. That's
So where did it come from?
flood. Well, flood, obviously.
Well,
because
it's from
God-
before the flood. How is that possible?
Because
Yeah.
flood did, oceans of the deep.
Creationism.
You don't like God.
Let's Steelman this position. Go ahead.
What?
Oh, I can't. It's impossible to steal, man. There is the flood can't account for these things, but if you keep saying it over and over again, people will send you money on Patreon.
Here, I'll steal man up for the creationists. Da, 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 da.
Exactly.
That's John Peterson's theme music.
Flooded.
I mean,
Apparently,
you're-
the coal was created when all that stuff was just mashed up together during the flood, and the flood went down and dried off, and then these big winds came up and blew all that underground on a hole underground.
Yeah,
Well-
they claim it all accumulated into, in like one spot and then got squished.
Well, a good example of how terrible that argument is Kent Hovind in that stream that you guys were talking about when I first showed up was talking about how you can have undisturbed egg nests in a flood. Undisturbed dinosaur eggs. Like dinosaur egg nests, we have undisturbed ones of those. And that happened.
Did you guys see what I posted before I came in about you guys were talking about something related to this? You were talking about the Grand Canyon earlier, and I posted it. Matt Powell actually makes the argument that because there's not visible animal burrows along the
I saw that.
Along the walls of the Grand Canyon, that disproves the length of time it took to form. Because
I had this exact argument with someone earlier who thought the animal burrow, like for some reason, we should expect all sedimentary rock to be covered in animal burrows if it was short time periods. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense because compaction is involved in these things. When you look at a sandstone layer that's 2 feet tall, that's not 2 feet of sand that was laid down. That's like 20 feet of sand that was squished down to 2 because you need the compaction, you need the force to cement the particulate into rock. You're going to destroy all that stuff. That's why they're the exception, not the rule.
Yep. And for some reason, they have a tough time with the fossilized or petrified trees that are in multiple layers, like lengthwise in multiple layers.
Highly straight fossils.
So the coal deposits, you're reading that. Where were you reading that from? Like AIG or something?
I got it from a guy named Phil Vischer, who was a guest on Paulo Gia's latest video. He was actually the creator of the VeggieTales, the Christian cartoon. But he's a Christian still, but he's not a fundamentalist or a young Earth creationist. And so on his podcast, as well as on his YouTube channel, they outline kind of the 125-year-old history of creationism. And it was fascinating stuff. It came out of some Seventh-day Adventist personality, and that's what they taught about how coal was created and petroleum, I guess.
And it's just coincidence that always happens where there's been subduction that pushes up Carboniferous, I think Permian rock. It's like all coal deposits.
Somehow, I don't think that they were really concerned about subduction zones back then, but it was just made up to. It was Ellen G. White that envisioned the prophecy of wind blowing causing everything.
I want to ask Andrew. Andrew, can you come in here and tell us about your discussions with Nephi?
Hey, Jorge, can you post that? I guess I can post that channel, that YouTube channel. I gave you a rent. You didn't have one for some reason.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Okay, geology lovers, I have a question, if I may. This is totally unrelated to our creationist friends, but there's a subduction zone, I think, around China, where it goes under. There's like this one really huge volcano, and it's like the plate kind of gets stuck against something that's extra dense. Does that make any sense? I was just wondering how the zone was different in China than from like what we get on the west coast of America.
Is this creationist related, or are you talking about?
No.
Okay, sorry.
This is because I saw a video once and went, wow, and now I'm just trying to piece it all together again.
I think I saw that video too. It was talking about the Ring of Fire in the Pacific, and then there being one volcano in like central China that was not part of it. And there, what was it? Was that SciShow that was on? Maybe
It might have been.
Or eons, maybe. But yeah, it was because the plate that all the volcanoes are on in the Pacific actually went up underneath the East Asian plate or whatever, and it pushed up. Yeah, I remember something about it. But I don't know all the details.
Yeah, I was just because basically the way that it created its own. Apparently, is it like a caldera super volcano kind of situation?
I think what you're getting at is like a big magma chamber, essentially. Is that what you're referencing here?
Yeah, but the way it's created wasn't from a hot spot. Does that make sense at all, Brain? But I tell you what, I will just go back and find that video and rewatch it. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean, but there's a couple of people who like geology here that I thought I could.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell to me. Sorry.
What were you saying? Are you saying though that the plates, like there's supposedly like more friction between those two plates, and it's causing some kind of
more like it's not going. It's like hitting it's like bonking up against a thicker, more denser continental.
Yeah, it's like going underneath the East Asian plate and hitting against like the Himalayan plate or something up underneath there. So there's like under the full length of the East Asian plate is like that western end of the Pacific plate all the way to the Himalayas. I think is what the way.
Leo, are you watching?
That sounds cool.
What?
Yeah,
are you watching South Park?
No, I turned it down. I don't know why the fuck it's so goddamn loud. Probably because it's on sci-fi.
So
I think I found it. I think I found your thing, Scott.
To answer
I put in a side link. Is that what you're talking about?
Let me see.
To answer Andrew's question to me, yeah, I'm sure, but this isn't my.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, come in. So, what did you want to talk about again?
No, Andrew posted in there that he had just got done with a open chat with Nephilim Free.
Oh my God! Yeah, come on in, Andrew.
Andrew, yes, Speed wants you to come in.
We want to hear your experience, and we want to help you, and we want to console you. And I think he actually had a good chat with Nephilim Free, where Nephilim didn't interrupt him all the time.
I don't buy that.
He's like a Nephilim whisperer.
Yeah,
no, because he lets Nephilim ramble on for like 10, 15 minutes.
Well, no, Nephilim.
Wasn't that your first debate, Leo? Nephilim?
No, Otangelo.
I think what Andrew's trick is he waits to hear the screw top coming off of the vodka bottle.
No, he's a Nephilim whisperer. That's what he is. So he probably had a good talk with him. So
he says, "All right, if you insist,
we insist.
We do insist."
Let's see.
All right, let me work on my nephew. Please don't.
God, please don't.
So this Andrew guy, he's
you can whistle.
Get a slide whistle in the background for you.
Oh, whining evolutionists and atheists 1 hour ago. Oh my God, I missed this.
There we go.
Oh, that was just great Nephi stream.
I'm looking at the stream now.
Why can I not whistle when I blow out? This is fucking weird. I've been able to do it my whole life.
I never learned how to whistle when I was a kid, and it fucked up my teenage years horribly. I didn't get any girls because I couldn't whistle.
I'll bet you if you force the air out of your asshole. Force the air out of your asshole. That's probably more popular than your lip.
Here's the man. Here's the man, and here's the damage. The damage was done over here.
Wait a minute. That's Andrew?
Yes. That is, yeah. Rachel and Pierce's. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't
By
know.
the way, I think Matt Dillahunty did go flying off the handle with Sal in that debate because there was a point in there where he said, "Bite me," to Sal. So that kind of counts as going a little too far.
Yeah, but most of the time he was just being forceful and logically precise.
Yeah, I agree. But
Sal was really butthurt about it.
I only encounter. I'm sorry, whoever I interrupt there. I only ever encountered Sal today on Speed's earlier stream, and yeah, I mean, I'm surprised I didn't tell him to bite me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sal was quite accusatory in that debate.
Well, Cell was being he was extremely hurt by that because he was going on about it. Like I tuned into his show with Danny like an hour in, and he was still going on about it. So
Traumatized by Matt Delahanty.
it was traumatized.
Can you guys hear me?
So
I can hear you.
Andrew, we're here to offer you condolences for your experience on Nephilim.
Yeah, if it's all the same to you, Speed, this is it's one chat that I don't want to rewatch right now for many
Yeah, we're not
reasons,
gonna rewatch it,
which
no.
is the fact that it's an hour long.
Before we get started, Speed, click your icon there in the top right corner.
Top right corner. What the fuck would I want to do that for?
Because I asked you to.
What are you talking about?
Just do it, damn it.
I don't know what I don't know what the meaning of your words are.
Your
What do you mean?
icon that has your profile picture, your icon in the top right corner on YouTube, click on that.
Top right corner. Oh, that? Why?
Yes, just click on it. Now,
Why?
see where it says appearance, device theme, turn that to dark.
Why?
Because the brightness is just fucking dumb and it's overbearing and it needs to be dark.
It's his. It's
Dark
his
theme.
YouTube.
Dark theme, there you go. See how much sexier that looks? It's so much more appeasing to the eyes.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Icky.
Well, that's because you're a fucking
It's
weirdo.
icky.
Much more appeasing to the
Jesus
eyes.
Christ, you want me to start drinking? That's fucking depressing.
No, I don't. I watch
I'm a
it.
dog
Generation
user as well. I can
young
side with
developers
you.
where I work.
What about
He's
Speed
the
making
same
you
way.
think he's goth?
Light
I'm a
theme.
fan of the dark side. It's true.
Okay, what is device theme? Okay,
Dude, I
light
can't.
theme.
I can't look at this. It just looks so shitty. It's so
Look
bright.
at it that way every stream you've been in with Speed. What are you
And I
talking
usually go
Yeah,
to
now you're fucking telling me this
I
shit?
usually go to a different tab because I can't fucking stand to look at it.
It does look like a browser from the 90s, is what it looks like.
It does. It sucks.
Oh, you kids in this fucking dark theme shit. No wonder you're so fucked up.
It's better
I mean,
on
Jesus
mine. It's
Christ.
actually literally better psychologically for you.
God, do you ever go outside and look at the fucking sun? The sun is
No, because I'm
bright.
not an idiot.
I know.
He's not
kidding me?
Donald Trump. He doesn't stare at the
Leo's-
sun.
Leo's nickname is Powder. He
We
doesn't
I
uh,
get that reference.
we sit here in our with our glasses on and tell Speed that he needs to do this for his eyes.
Yeah.
So anyway, why is it though? What happened that you're? Because it's so funny, Andrew. You just said a minute ago. Yeah, I'm not ready to watch this stream over again. Like, what did Neffy do to you?
Is there a
Wait,
time?
whoa.
Where did he touch you?
Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes.
Pump
Why?
the brakes. Creation Myth said, y'all seen the Dems are going to win both Georgia and Senate races? There's 90%
Oh, no
reporting.
shit.
And David Perdue leads and Kelly Loeffler leads.
Are you fucking kidding me? Really?
No.
I've
Oh,
been
that's
watching that too. It's looking
Oh,
pretty
they fucking
blue.
So I don't know what Dan is looking at, but it's not what I'm looking at.
Oh, they keep digging a deeper and deeper hole with this fucking Trump. They're gonna have to. I mean, they're gonna have to get rid of Trump here real soon.
Did you guys hear those tapes? Or
Oh, I did. You mean his 1 hour thing, his appeal? Where
Yeah,
where he
so that's all
committed-
great and everything, but didn't we ask Andrew in here to tell us about Nephilim 3?
We did. Okay, Andrew.
No,
Thank you,
it's
John, for putting us back on.
It's fine. See, this. I'd like to talk about it, but I don't want to take
No,
us
go
on.
ahead and how was your experience with Nephilim 3?
He said a lot of stuff I disagreed with. We had a
Of course.
calm chat, but it's hard to describe. I don't know why I keep doing this, to be honest.
I don't know.
Because you're
I
a
think
fucking masochist.
you have calm conversations with him, and I've never seen that before. You're like the Nephilim whisperer.
Because I'm a ninja.
I think so. You have to teach me, Andrew. Teach me.
Oh, it takes years of practice.
Okay.
So,
It's not what I
Yeah.
clicked on. Stupid
so
fuck.
Dems are going to maybe take the Senate, huh?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh fuck. Oh god, it would be so cool. It would just piss him off so much more.
like where this is going.
Their boy lost. Their boy lost. Oh, I think Trump lost the election. What do you think?
Yeah, that could be.
That's so sad for him. They were so counting on him overturning this democracy.
Well, no,
Now
didn't
they
you
had
know,
it in
that, what's his name? Mike Pence tomorrow, he's going to flip it to Trump.
Yeah, that's what I hear, yeah.
He can't do that. He doesn't have the power
No,
to do
I
it.
know. It was a joke, Leo. It was a joke.
Yeah.
Who was that crazy right-wing guy that was saying that he needs to be in front of Pence needs to be in front of a firing squad?
A crazy
don't care.
right-wing guy? You have to narrow
Yeah,
that down a
like,
bit.
literally all right-wing guys are crazy
He
right-wing
was
guys.
he was tweeting about it. Who covered that today?
It could be Pastor Greg Locke. It could be fucking
No, this was
Blicker or whatever.
someone
The fuck
on the
his name
legal
is.
team, on the Trump legal team.
I don't follow the Trump team.
Oh, was it Rudy Giuliani?
No, it wasn't
Judy
Giuliani.
Giuliani.
With that. Oh, who was talking? If I can remember who was talking about it, I'll remember who it was.
So my apologies to you, Andrew.
Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Well, one thing you said that kind of struck a nerve with me, or didn't frustrate me, but like it made me kind of think for a sec. Was oh, I'm hearing an echo for some reason. Is that coming from me? I don't know. Okay, I'm not hearing it now. Huh. Okay, I heard an echo for a sec. Anyways, so one point, I think it's safe to say that I proved that Nephilim Free is out of his element in astronomy and the Big Bang. I think
I've known that for 5 years.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, why didn't you tell me that?
I thought that it was evident considering Nephilim is out of his league on literally every fucking thing he talks about.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, anyway,
yeah.
Andrew, how about finishing that point so I can understand what you're saying?
Yeah. So like for example, at one point he talked about the Big Bang as an explosion. At another point he talked about the Big Bang as an expansion, like most cosmologists would say. And at one point he said that the universe couldn't have gone on infinite in the past because the explosion releases more and more energy or something like that, or like that it's going to eventually fizzle out or something like that. Like it's going to run out of useful energy because of the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole bunch of nonsense.
So
And it couldn't be infinite, but then he's willing to accept that God's infinite. Yeah. Okay.
Is it standard for apologists to assert that our position is that the Big Bang was the start of the universe?
Yes.
That's not my position. I've never heard
Position
anybody.
of only apologists. You ask any cosmologist, and Andrew worded it beautifully. The Big Bang isn't the beginning of the universe; it's the end of our understanding of it.
Well,
Yeah. I'd have to quote Sean Carroll on that.
Wait, that was Sean
I never heard what
Yeah,
Leo
it's something similar to that.
that is that's very wonderful. I like that. It's
Yeah.
not the
Well,
beginning of the universe, it's the end of our understanding. That's
Now that you say that, I feel like I might know. Oh God.
I mean it's what most cosmologists have told me all my life, though, or at
Yes.
least however long I've been researching this.
I
yeah,
can write three
that's
of
my
them right now.
position. I mean, I agree with it. That's as far back as what we know. It's not the beginning. It's just as far back as we can verify the chain of events. People talk about a prime mover, and a mover is a order of events, and that requires time, and time
That's
didn't
space.
exist. So
Well, like
well,
to-
the thing, much like you're saying what Leo just said about it's just the ending of our. I don't necessarily. I know it's what most people think, but I don't think it's necessarily proven without all a doubt that time didn't exist before the Big Bang. Okay?
no,
because we don't know the medium out from which the singularity came from. There could have been some type of time reference there. You know, I
You,
mean,
yeah,
you have
yeah.
to remember the singularity isn't like an actual physical object or a real state. It's defining the fact that our mathematics is no longer capable of describing what's going on at these particular instances.
Like
Singularities don't actually exist. They're not like a thing that's there that
well,
exists.
right, but
has
that has
properties.
nothing to do with. But that has nothing to do with my statement. Whatever the singularity is,
There is no singularity.
The concept of the
you are
singularity is
such a
what John's.
pedantic motherfucker, Leo. You
Well,
can't.
it's not pedantry. It's
Holy fuck!
literally is
Leo,
no
we have to use terms that we can all agree on, that we know what's going on. As long as you know what
inflation would be the proper term. Inflation, not singularity. Prior to inflation.
Okay, well, guess what? The word I'm going to use for prior to inflation is fucking singularity.
That's fine. That's just quite inaccurate.
But you understand
well,
what he
it's not-
means
no,
when
it's
he
not
says
I
it.
don't
Not
actually.
inaccurate. It's not fucking inaccurate.
Leo,
It technically it is.
Pedantic motherfucker.
Leo, be better. Be better, Leo.
We have to be able to communicate with normal people, Leo. Come on, we got to be able to communicate with everybody and use terms and understand what they're saying to us so that we can explain it better. If you come out of the gate swinging saying you're using the wrong words, you're not connecting with people. You're not reaching people.
Yeah.
So if I may say something, so going back, wait, is Leo frozen? Oh,
He was first.
Okay, all right. So going, like one professor that I've talked to said it nicely. I think is that, well, I was asking him the question exactly what you were saying, John. Like if we don't know if time actually started there, then what does after the Big Bang really mean? Because I was still trying to figure this out. And the professor I was
or the opposite of that. What does before the Big Bang mean? Yeah, if it was
right. Yeah, I was asking him what after the Big Bang means. Like if it's an arbitrary starting point, basically. And he kind of he said something along the lines of how far back you can trace cosmic evolution until you get to the point where there would be a singularity, according to the simple models of general relativity. And he also said that that's not the best way to think of it, as after the Big Bang. The term is kind of outdated, but he said it's a good layman's measure of when things get
it's
started.
basically a placeholder. Yeah, it's like a verbal placeholder, because
Right.
there's really no good description of it. I mean, the model being completely unscientific as I am, the model that makes the most sense to me is that expansion, an infinite series of expansion and contraction, you know, because they theorize that at some point the universe is going to expand to a point where it's just going to crunch back in on itself. And I think that's a plausible way that the whole thing could be eternal, that it's just been expanding and contracting over.
Right. I would say that there are, like, the monkey wrench in kind of our current understanding of cosmology is dark energy, because we have no freaking idea really what it is. We have
We've got
some
clues. It's probably
we-
vacuum energy.
Yeah, it's probably that, but there's still some uncertainty in it, and so the universe might reverse in dark energy and crunch back
Might,
in on
but
itself.
probably won't, because it's accelerating in its expansion. The current standard in
Right,
cosmology is that space-time will continue to just expand indefinitely.
Right, I'm just saying there are different possibilities.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's different hypotheses.
Yes.
But hey, does anybody know? And I think this is his name. He used to call his show "What the Math." I think his name's Anton Petrov. He talks about cosmology all the time. But he had a recent video within the last couple of weeks. They discovered a region of space that doesn't have dark matter.
Oh yeah, we've discovered galaxies that don't have dark matter. It's one of the reasons why dark matter being an actual particle rather than being a because there's two competing ideas for what dark matter could be. Either A, it's actually some form of physical matter constructed of particles, or it's just that the way that gravity works on very, very, very large scales that we really haven't been capable of testing is different than the local scales that we've been capable of testing. It often referred to as MOND, modified Newtonian dynamics, which makes no sense because it's not Newtonian dynamics, it's Einsteinian dynamics. I don't fucking get the name because physicists are fucking shit at naming things. But the reason that most cosmologists, most physicists in general go with it being some form of tangible matter is that there's galaxies that don't have it. So if it's a modification of existing physics, why is this physics being selective with where it wants to apply? That just doesn't seem to be the case.
Right. Another, if going back to the conversation I had with Neff, if that's okay, one thing I kind of tried to get him to respond to was this idea of a nested hierarchy. And I think based on what he said, Neff seems to have the impression that phylogenetics is linear.
That's not a surprise.
Just a bit of a mea culpa. I don't think I told anybody this, but 2 weeks ago today or 3 weeks ago today, I quit smoking. I think that's why I've been
really
so ranty lately.
Did you replace it with nicotine gum or anything?
No, I just stopped because I've got the vape here, which it's funny because once I went to the vape, it was like I was only hitting the vape like maybe 15 to 20 times in a day. And that's basically like one cigarette, you know. And I noticed I was getting a little raggy that first week. I think I'm still a little raggy. And then the other thing I did was the end of last week, I went and got something I used to do for years and years, and I got some chew.
Oh, chew? Shit. I used to chew like a motherfucker in high school.
But
Iowa, so
same thing. Like when I was chewing stuff for years and years, I would do no shit like a can of Coke a day or something like that. And then like I got this. Actually, it was a week ago yesterday. I got that first can, and I just used the last of it this morning. So, I quit smoking, and there's been a couple times since then where I had the urge to almost go and buy a pack of smokes, but I haven't done it because like the vape, there's something about the vape. It's got the nicotine in it, but it's not the same kind of hit as a cigarette. You know what I mean? Like when you draw smoke down your lungs, like.
It's vape, kind of a harder hit. In my like, I tried it a couple times, and it was like, it was a lot of fucking nicotine.
Well, right, and the other thing, like, if you don't hit the vape thing, you got to get used to hitting it right. Because if you just grab it and draw on it like you would a cigarette, you're gonna cough your fucking dick off.
Yeah.
Hey, can you share my screen real quick? I was gonna, since he was talking about nested hierarchy, I was working on something. I was trying to come up with a graphic to share. So I was thinking about this and kind of just.
What were you on when you drew that, Brainbug?
Inkscape.
No, I mean, what were you taking to give you that high that made you imagine that?
Nothing. Well, weed, but yeah, I'm always on weed.
I wish it makes nested hierarchies fun. Dang it.
So I'm trying to find something that help people understand how it works.
Well, it is visually appealing.
Is it?
Yes,
okay.
it is very beautiful.
Nephilim would still be confused, and it's not that he's confused. It's just that he doesn't know how to accept anything that goes against what he's already convinced himself must be true, because that's how ignorant people who suffer from cognitive dissonance work.
Right. I was. Oh.
Does it make sense though? I mean, can you all?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it makes sense to me, except for the fact that I don't know what almost any of those words are. Oh, all right. Now I'm looking closer and I can see. All right, placental marsupial.
I recognize mammal and placental. and marsupial.
Do you think there's a link between consuming profuse amounts of vodka and cognitive dissonance?
Perhaps.
Probably not, but who knows?
Maybe I should.
I mean,
more
does,
layman stuff in here, though.
does
so-
Otangelo drink a shit pile of vodka?
No, but Neffy does.
Okay.
I could maybe make two versions of this, or maybe I think I should keep the scientific names.
Well,
should.
yeah.
Yes.
I think what you should do.
has the right idea about not being too attached to anything, so that like I'm not so attached to an idea that seeing evidence to the opposite doesn't make me dig in and act all a fool and everything, because nobody wants to be wrong. Everybody wants to, but everybody wants to know the truth about
Right.
things. So why be attached to ideas, especially scientific ideas, because those are always being improved upon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all science is provisional. No matter
That-
even as vociferously as we defend evolution and everything. Yeah, while the overall theory is fact, the intricacies of it can change. Depending on our new understanding.
The thing is that creationists like trick us into defending ideas that we only provisionally believe in, like fucking junk DNA. And then, I mean, the way they word it, the way they do it, they invite us to start defending stuff, and nobody even wants to fucking defend it.
Right,
Hey,
like-
you took his screen down. I was just about to ask. There was like one dot there in the
That we couldn't see.
enamel thing that didn't have anything written on it, like a red dot.
Oh, I'm not done with it.
Okay. Well,
It's
I was gonna say, instead of the colored bubbles, since it's a nesting hierarchy, why don't you like turn those into actual nests?
I think Scott Duke worded it pretty well. It alludes to a phrase I have coined. I at least don't know anybody else that's coined it. Everybody wants to be right, but nobody wants to hear the truth.
Oh yeah.
Damn,
Oh,
I'm gonna put that on a fortune cookie.
Oh, you know what, Brian?
yeah.
Or if you could take this and turn it into an animation and use a nesting Russian dolls theme.
Ooh.
Well, I was thinking about having it zoom out, like being all the way in. I'm not even. I mean, I'm just barely getting into like being like zoomed in and kind of pulling out
Right.
as I.
Oh,
You know what I mean by the nesting dolls, right? You've seen those.
Yeah, the Russian dolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit, guys. We've got an interesting debate coming up on the 13th of this month, 7 p.m. Central. Debate: is there code in DNA?
Yeah, I
I
saw that. I
Ah,
wondered.
don't say anything. I want everybody to guess who they think the debaters are. If you know, keep your mouth shut.
Is it
It's not who you would think.
probably John Maddox?
Nope.
SFT.
Nope. I said it's not who you think.
Oh, okay.
It's a very interesting pair up.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Wow.
Is
One
it-
of the names is familiar, yes, but the other one I've never heard
Is
of.
it Suzanne Summers versus the cadaver of Johnny Cash? Like you,
I would love to see that debate, John Peterson.
It's some John Perry, Jon John Perry versus T Jump.
Stated clearly, John Perry.
Stated clearly.
I don't know.
I like John Perry. I was trying to see.
I wonder which side he's taking. Anybody
So you think
guess
Trump's
which side he's
coming
taking?
yet?
I think he's for the code, but he accepts evolution. Though.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he's even a theist. I think
not.
that one can say that there is a code in DNA. I don't think that's inaccurate, but I don't think that it should be taken literally.
That's probably what they're debating. It's going to be a definition debate.
Yeah, and that's why to me it's just like, you know what, you want to say there's code in DNA? Great, cool. That doesn't mean anything. Humans call it that because it looks like codes are things made
yeah,
exclusive.
you know what it's like, Leo. It's like when somebody decides to, instead of saying prior to the expansion, they want to say the word singularity.
Except there's a lot of technicalities there that make that not the same. Anyway,
Well, no, it's actually exactly the same.
singularity is just incorrect. Like it's just
No,
straight.
but it's exactly the same. You're bringing up the exact same
Codes are
point.
things that are made exclusively by humans. So we see something that operates somewhat similar to the codes that we make. So we just take that word, apply it. It's why we call cells factories. But these are analogies.
It's conflating the map with the place is what it is.
Yeah, no, and I said that to Otangelo like I don't know how many times in our last debate on the subject on agree to disagree.
Hold on a second. I just want to tell Russ that no, this is not the Georgia election runoff coverage. This is the celebration for Trump lost. Anyway, Russ is.
I gotta bounce, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
Your diagram. You should bring it to the weather report and talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. It reminds me of old episodes of Laugh In.
I work during the day, dude.
You do what?
I
what
work.
do you mean, like work? Like work? Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
He's 69. He doesn't remember work.
Anyway,
he doesn't remember about man. He's 69 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta go to sleep. No, I don't, but I have to go watch TV. I have to go eat food. So we should end it at some point. Huh?
I'm gonna make a what do you call it when you tell something that a confession. Yeah, I'm gonna do a confession here. Usually when I say it's boomer o'clock and I leave a stream, I usually watch TV for an hour or two after that.
So creation myths is okay. That's on your channel, isn't it, Dr. Dan?
No, it's on SFT's channel.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you going on SFT's channel?
Being sarcastic. Come on now.
Oh, okay.
Of course, it's on Dan's channel.
Okay, so anyway, on Dan's channel tomorrow at
finally we will get onto somebody else for not understanding sarcasm.
Oh. And then so what? 1 Eastern for what is it going to be on that channel?
Ken Miller versus Dr. Dan.
I would say
it's a discussion.
Yeah, they're not debating. It's not versus. They're
they're talking. Yeah, having a talk. Okay, I'm sorry.
Having a talk.
Having a talk. Yeah.
Dude, this is their code in DNA debate. I mean, I'm excited.
We got an exciting new book out here from Stephen C. Meyer.
Oh no!
Return of the God Hypothesis.
Oh.
I just got this. This is hot off the press. I just got this in my email. So
it's not a hypothesis.
Are you wrapping it up, Speed?
Am I what?
Huh?
Am I wrapping up?
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Okay, because I just wanted to say one more time, so like with the thing about the DNA, if somebody says code, well, that's a fine word, but it's not to be taken literally. And like if someone wants to call prior to the expansion a singularity, that's kind of the same exact thing. That's all.
fail to see how personally.
Pick it on Leo.
Because code are things that actually
that's okay. That's okay. I assure you, that's not the only thing in life that you fail on. So don't worry about it.
I fail at a lot of things. That's why I'm good at a lot of things.
That makes no sense.
Well, you can't be good at something unless you failed at it.
Kids, quit fighting. Don't make me fucking come back there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just saying y'all gonna have a debate about whether the singularity and before expansion are synonym.
Of course,
I just go with what the cosmologists say. They know infinitely more than me. I feel comfortable in line with what they say.
Right. I think because no cosmologist has ever used the phrase singularity.
They have, but not recently. Within the last probably 4 to 6 years.
Right.
I'm with John. I use the term the same as he was using it. So just I'm using it to describe that point in time.
Oh no, I get that, and I'm obviously I mean this with no offense, but you guys aren't cosmologists.
Nope.
Right, and neither are you.
You're right. Neither am I.
There you go.
Well, if that's, I mean, I can update my vernacular and everything, but we should understand that not everybody's up to speed on that, though. I mean,
that's why I try to.
Okay, I put that in the description also, the Ken Miller thing.
Better.
Did you speed? Let me see if it's in there. No, it's not in there yet.
Well,
Let me refresh. Let me refresh.
It's saving.
Let me
It's still saving.
There she be. Let me make sure I
she
set
be
the
there?
reminder. I'm like certain. Yes, I did. Reminder on at noon. Oh, maybe I'll be up. Hopefully
I
I
hate
will.
this dark theme. It's
Okay.
So
Oh, Vosh, what are you doing, dude? We don't know that Warnock and Ossoff both won. Why are people saying this? We don't know that.
yeah, no, they're kind of lagging behind, so it's not happening. It's going to go to the Republicans.
What do you mean it's going to go to the Republicans?
They're behind like 3 points right now. I think the Dems.
No, they're not. The last it showed that.
Well, now Warnock is now leading Kelly Loeffler 50.2 to 49.8. David Perdue and John Ossoff is 50.
Well, the fucking Democrats have to get those dead votes in before that'll happen between.
Gotta wait till
now and 3 a.m.
That Ossoff's leading.
Has Atlanta been counted yet?
I don't know. I'm not saying they're not going to win.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we shouldn't get our hopes up.
There were still, but wait a minute. You just said Ossoff's ahead, right?
No, Warnock is ahead of Loeffler. Ossoff still trails Purdue.
Okay, so the remaining vote is in the D areas. Okay, so they could pick it up.
Well,
It'll be fun. This
that
is
true,
like
though?
reliving November 3rd, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of Fulton County to count. Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not going to win. I'm just saying
but has
let's
so
see what happens.
no votes in from Atlanta? Is that
They're coming in right now. So
right now?
All I'm saying is that if they do both pull it off, Stacey Abrams should just become the president. I mean, let's be honest here. She should just become the fucking president. Because
Well,
Cool.
maybe after Joe kicks the bucket.
my cat
What's
says
her-
I gotta go.
Yeah, but what? Wow, fuck! Now you broke my brain with that. I hear
you said
cat.
maybe after Joe kicks the bucket.
Oh, Kamala can name Stacey her vice president.
Oh, okay.
That'd be pretty fucking cool. But I the one thing I want to say is if both the Dems pull this one off, I really don't see Republicans being in power, or at least in any significant way going forward. I just don't.
What?
I think that people, and I'm not saying that the Democratic Party is like they're better than the Republicans, but they're still not a good party. And the one thing about this is if the Dems win this, if both Ossoff and Warnock win, I think that they probably will, but we don't know for sure. What this allows us is there's now a Democratic trifecta: the House, the Senate, and the presidency, the executive branch. This means
We're fucked.
Yeah, I mean,
well, the Republicans obstructed us the whole way, so that's why we didn't get anything done. And we can say, no, you motherfuckers had the votes. You just chose not to get anything done. And what that's going to do is it's going to unify people behind a truly progressive candidate in 2024.
What do you mean they didn't do anything? 350,000 Americans are dead. He did a lot.
What have Democrats honestly done to counter that? Nothing, but just be an opposition party.
Yeah, well, really?
Really?
We have a leader. Okay, there's the whole purpose of the president is to get up and fucking rally us on TV. He didn't do that.
Saying that the Republicans or that Trump have done something, but Democrats haven't. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying both parties haven't done shit because neither party cares. What I'm saying is that instead of Democrats pulling their old trope that, oh, well, we couldn't get anything done for you guys because we were obstructed by the Republicans, which is never actually
true. I gotta mute this fucking radical.
What they're saying, what we can say, once they actually have both houses of the Congress and the presidency, is we'll be able to say, no, you can't pull that excuse. You guys just failed to act, and we can hold their feet to the fire. Which
It's time to not just be better than Trump or better than the Republicans. It's time to you gotta freaking step up and show us that you can do the right fucking thing, or we're gonna go full left and
well, the one real problem is that both parties are being paid off by the same financial structure, and that's our beloved corporations. They're beholden not to the people, not to you and I, but to corporations and their interests.
oil industry and pharmacy industry and lobbyists. Yeah.
And until that kind of financial structure changes, it's going to be hard to
But you can't put any regulations on it because they've already convinced
Two of
everybody
the
socialism.
Fucking Leo died.
two of the worst court decisions of last half century is when money was recognized as speech, and corporations were conflated and recognized as individuals. That's the problem. You know, the problems that led to this, because there shouldn't be any. There shouldn't be any money in politics. There's plenty of countries that do it that way. Like I think that over in England, the election season is like a month or something like that. They all get public funding. They get so much public funding to use for ads or whatever. And it's not this like, you know, like how long did the presidential not election, but campaign go on? It was over 2 years. Like, that's crazy.
Trump never stopped campaigning. Never.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we took a vote while you were
Yeah.
gone, Leo. We took a vote while you were gone.
I have no idea what happened. It said that my mic like just lost connection to. I don't know what the fuck happened. That's never happened to me
You've been
before.
roboting all night, man. Like,
Well, no, it's a StreamYard
like,
thing.
Well, I mean, all night for you, you've been like this great fucking story that Patton Oswalt used to tell in his stand-up, where he would talk about open mic night at the place he used to go when he first started being a comedian. And he said there was this one guy that used to come in every open mic night that was like a heroin addict. And he would go up there and start talking into the mic. And then just periodically during his talk, he would fall asleep standing up with his head against the mic for like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. And then he would wake up and continue the story on as if he had been talking that whole time, that whole 90 seconds. He would pick the story up further down the line where he would have been if he had kept talking. And that's how it's been with you tonight. Like you'll start to say something and then you'll fucking freeze up and robot.
Yeah,
and then you'll come out like 60 seconds later.
Not once had these problems on Zoom or Google Meet. It's a
No,
StreamYard.
you
StreamYard is
don't
not
have
a good platform. That's why like none of the professionals use it.
I'm not a professional. You haven't bought it that much. He hasn't bought it that much, or are you just fucking with him, John?
Well, it's happened a couple times. He kind of like faded out and we missed some of what he said.
I think we'll freeze up just, for a couple of seconds and then continue several times tonight on this.
You know what, guys? I got an appointment with my Netflix.
Yeah,
right. Go to guys.
I gotta watch Shameless. Shit.
Good night.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, Brian.
Good night, Brian.
All right, I will bow out as well, gentlemen. It was
Yeah,
fun
we're gonna
talking.
end this. We'll see you guys, everyone out there. Thanks for being there. And Dr. Dan, I hope the fuck you're right.
Let's hope so.
Okay. Good night, everyone.